The champagne cork popped with a sound that felt like a gunshot to my chest. My brothers, Timothy and Robert, were toasting their victory while I sat at the far end of the conference table, staring at the termination papers they'd just slid across the mahogany surface. "To the future of Morrison Industries," Timothy declared, raising his glass high, "finally free to reach its full potential, just the tech support," Robert added with a smirk, looking directly at me. "That's all you ever were, Natalie. Dad kept you around out of pity, but we're running a business, not a charity." I picked up the papers with steady hands, though inside I was seething. 23 years of my life dedicated to this company, and they'd reduced me to just the tech support. "My name is Natalie Morrison, and I'm 41 years old. I was 17 when I started working at my father's manufacturing company, Morrison Industries. Back then, it was a struggling operation making basic household fixtures, doorknobs, hinges, cabinet handles. Nothing revolutionary, nothing special, just enough to keep the lights on and food on the table." My brothers were different from me from the start. Timothy, 5 years older, went to business school and came back with an MBA and an ego the size of Texas. Robert, 3 years older, studied marketing and returned convinced he was Don Draper reincarnated. They wore expensive suits, talked about synergy and market penetration, and looked at spreadsheets like they were holy scripture. I was the weird one, the girl who preferred the factory floor to the boardroom, who spent her free time taking apart machines to see how they worked, who taught herself coding because I thought it was fun. When other teenagers were at parties, I was in Dad's workshop, tinkering with designs and dreaming up improvements. "You've got the mind of an engineer," Dad used to say, ruffling my hair as I showed him my latest creation, maybe even an inventor. But to Timothy and Robert, I was just their little sister playing with tools. When I developed our first computerized manufacturing system at 22, they called it Natalie's Little Project. When I created the smart lock system that became our bestseller, they presented it to clients as a team effort while I sat silent in the corner, running the technical demos. The truth was, I'd been the driving force behind every major innovation at Morrison Industries for the past 2 decades. While my brothers focused on sales and marketing, I revolutionized our entire product line. Smart locks that could be controlled by phone apps, hinges with built-in sensors for security systems, cabinet hardware with fingerprint recognition. Every patent filed under the company name had my signature as the inventor. But there was something my brothers never bothered to understand about patent law, something that would soon become very, very important. "Are you going to sign those papers, or just stare at them?" Timothy asked impatiently, checking his Rolex. "We have a meeting with the Koreans in an hour. Big distribution deal for the smart home line." The smart home line, my smart home line, the one I developed over 5 years of late nights and weekends, perfecting every circuit, every line of code, every mechanical component. "Of course," I said quietly, signing my name with a flourish. "I'll clean out my office today." "That won't be necessary," Robert interjected. "We've already had security pack your things. They're in the lobby. We'll need your keycard and company phone before you leave." 23 years reduced to a cardboard box in the lobby. I stood up, placed my keycard and phone on the table, and headed for the door. "Oh, and Natalie?" Timothy called out. "The non-compete clause means you can't work for any competitor for 5 years, just so we're clear." I turned back and gave them a smile, not my usual, accommodating smile, something sharper, crystal clear. "Timothy, enjoy your meeting with the Koreans." As I walked out of the building I'd spent half my life in, carrying a pathetic box of personal items, I pulled out my personal phone and made a single call. "Harrison, it's Natalie Morrison. Remember that contingency plan we discussed? It's time to execute it." Harrison Chen was my patent attorney, a friend from my brief stint at engineering school before Dad guilt-tripped me into joining the family business. He'd been begging me for years to file patents under my own name, warning me about the risks of assigning everything to the company. "They finally did it?" he asked, not sounding surprised. "Just now, voted me out, 2-1. Dad's shares were split between them after he died, so they had the majority, and they have no idea about." "None," I confirmed. "They never read the fine print, never asked why some patents were filed differently than others. They just assumed everything belonged to the company." Here's what my MBA-educated brothers failed to understand. There are 2 types of patent assignments. The first assigns all rights to the company immediately upon filing. The second, the type I'd been using for the past 5 years, grants the company a license to use the patent while I retained ownership. It was a subtle difference in paperwork, one that required careful reading to catch. But Timothy and Robert never read the technical documents. That was Natalie's department. "How many patents are we talking about?" Harrison asked. 17, I said, settling into my car. Every product in the smart home line, every improvement to the manufacturing process, the entire codebase for the app ecosystem. Morrison Industries has been operating under license agreements that are tied to my employment, which terminated today. I agreed. How fast can you prepare the cease and desist letters? I've had them drafted for 2 years, Harrison admitted. I just need to add today's date and hit send. Natalie, are you sure about this? This is going to get ugly. I thought about 23 years of being overlooked, dismissed, and diminished, of watching my brothers take credit for my innovations while treating me like a glorified mechanic, of board meetings where they'd interrupt my technical explanations to tell clients not to worry about all that complicated stuff. Send them, I said, every single one. That weekend was quiet. I spent it in my home workshop, the one place where I'd always felt truly myself. I'd converted my garage into a makerspace years ago, complete with 3D printers, CNC machines, and every tool I could ever need. This was where the real magic happened, where ideas became prototypes became products. My phone buzzed occasionally, messages from former colleagues wondering what had happened, a few friends checking in. I ignored them all. I had work to do. Monday morning arrived with the kind of beautiful sunshine that felt like the universe was in on the joke. At exactly 9 a.m., as I knew Timothy and Robert would be settling into their offices with their morning coffee, Harrison's letters would be arriving via courier, email, and fax simultaneously. No chance of claiming they didn't receive them. At 9:07, my phone rang. Timothy. I let it go to voicemail. At 9:09, Robert called. Also straight to voicemail. At 9:13, they called together from Timothy's office phone. This time, I answered, "Good morning, brothers. How was the meeting with the Koreans? What have you done?" Timothy's voice was so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "I've exercised my rights as a patent holder," I said calmly, "since I'm no longer employed by Morrison Industries. The license agreements for my patents are void. You'll need to cease and desist all manufacturing, sales, and distribution of the affected products immediately." "You can't do this," Robert sputtered. "Those patents belong to the company. You developed them as an employee. Actually, if you check the filing documents, you'll see that I developed them as an independent contractor. Remember 5 years ago when you restructured my employment to save on benefits? You had me sign a new contract that classified me differently for tax purposes. That change allowed me to retain ownership of any patents I developed." Silence. I could practically hear them scrambling for the documents. But you still assigned them to the company," Timothy protested weakly. "I licensed them to the company. Big difference. The license was contingent on my continued employment. Page 47 of my contract, subsection 12b. But I'm guessing neither of you read that far." "This is blackmail," Robert shouted. "No, this is business. Isn't that what you told me on Friday? You're running a business, not a charity. The smart home line represents 73% of our revenue." Timothy's voice had gone from angry to panicked. "You're trying to destroy Dad's company." "Dad's company made doorknobs and hinges," I replied. "I transformed it into a smart home manufacturer, and you just fired the person responsible for that transformation. We'll sue." "Please do. I'd love to see you explain to a judge how you never bothered to read the contracts you signed, how you never questioned why the tech support was named as inventor on every major patent, how you voted out the person whose innovations kept your company afloat." More silence. Then, Timothy's voice, smaller now. "What do you want?" "What I've always wanted," I said. "Respect, recognition, and fair compensation for my contributions." "We can't just undo the termination," Robert said. "The board would need to vote, and we'd look like idiots. Then I guess you'll need to find new products to sell." "Might I suggest going back to basic doorknobs? Though even those might be tricky. I hold the patents on the improved manufacturing process." I hung up and went back to my workshop. On my bench sat my latest project, a revolutionary smart home hub that would make everything Morrison Industries sold obsolete. I'd been developing it in secret for months, knowing this day would come eventually. The calls continued throughout the day. Timothy and Robert, their lawyers, board members who'd suddenly realized their cash cow was about to disappear. I ignored them all, focusing on my work. Tuesday brought a formal letter from Morrison Industries' legal team, threatening action for corporate espionage and theft of trade secrets. Harrison responded with a detailed breakdown of exactly which patents I owned and why their claims were baseless. He also pointed out that any attempt to continue selling products based on my patents would result in immediate legal action. Wednesday, the panic really set in. Their Korean distributors were threatening to cancel the deal. Existing orders couldn't be fulfilled without violating the cease and desist. The stock price had dropped 30% on rumors of production difficulties. Thursday, Timothy showed up at my house. He looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled suit, the kind of desperation in his eyes I'd never seen before. "Natalie, please," he said when I opened the door. "We need to talk." I let him in but didn't offer coffee. "Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Definitely." "We were wrong," he said without preamble. "Robert and I, we let our egos get in the way. We've always been jealous of how easily things came to you. How Dad lit up when you showed him your inventions. We're the ones with the fancy degrees, but you're the one who made the company successful. And yet you called me just the tech support." He winced. "I know, it was cruel and stupid. We convinced ourselves that sales and marketing were what mattered, that the products would sell themselves. But without your innovations, you have nothing to sell." I finished. "The board is furious. We're facing lawsuits from distributors. Our credit line is in jeopardy. And Robert had a panic attack yesterday, had to go to the hospital." I felt a twinge of sympathy but pushed it down. They'd had 23 years to show me respect. It had taken less than a week without me for them to realize my value. "What are you proposing?" I asked. "Come back," he said immediately. "Full partnership, equal voting rights, and retroactive compensation for all patents. We'll restructure everything, make you Chief Technology Officer, whatever you want." "I don't want to be Chief Technology Officer," I said. "I want to be what I've always been, the heart of this company's innovation. But this time, with the recognition and compensation I deserve. Name your terms." I'd been thinking about this moment for days, years. "Really, 51% ownership. I want majority control." Timothy's face went white. The board would never approve that. Then the board can watch Morrison Industries go back to making basic hardware while I launch my own company with my patents and innovations. Your choice." "You'd really destroy Dad's legacy over this?" "Dad's legacy was teaching me to value my worth," I said firmly. "You and Robert destroyed it when you decided I was expendable. I'm offering to rebuild it, but on my terms." He left without agreeing, but I knew they'd be back. The numbers didn't lie. Without my patents, Morrison Industries was worth less than the building it operated in. They'd spent years building a sales and distribution network for products only I could legally produce. It took another week of negotiations, threats, and increasingly desperate offers before they finally agreed. 51% ownership, full control over all technical development, and a seat on the board as Chief Innovation Officer, a title I created for myself. The signing ceremony was held in the same conference room where they'd terminated me 2 weeks earlier. The champagne was gone, replaced by somber faces and legal documents. Timothy and Robert looked diminished, their usual bravado replaced by hard-learned humility. "For what it's worth," Robert said as I signed the papers that would make me majority owner, "we're sorry. We should have valued you from the beginning." "Yes," I agreed, "you should have, but I wasn't interested in dwelling on the past. I had a company to run, innovations to develop, and a legacy to build." The girl they'd dismissed as just the tech support now owned the kingdom they'd tried to rule without her. The first thing I did as majority owner was institute a company-wide patent review. Turns out, I wasn't the only one whose contributions had been overlooked. Several engineers had ideas that had been shelved because they weren't marketable enough according to my brother's narrow vision. Within 6 months, we'd launched 3 new product lines based on previously ignored innovations. The smart home hub I'd been developing became our flagship product, integrating all our existing systems into one seamless experience. Timothy and Robert, to their credit, adapted to the new reality. They focused on what they did best, sales and marketing, while leaving the innovation to me and my expanded team. They even started attending my technical presentations, finally bothering to understand the products they were selling. The company thrived under the new structure. Turns out, when you value the people who create your products as much as the people who sell them, success follows naturally. We went from a regional manufacturer to a national brand, then international. The patents I'd retained became the foundation for an entire ecosystem of smart home products. But the real satisfaction came from smaller moments, like when a young engineer came to me with an idea and knew it would be heard, not dismissed. Like when my name appeared first on the company letterhead, Morrison Industries, a Natalie Morrison company. Like when Timothy introduced me at a conference as the genius behind everything we make. They'd thought I was just the tech support, a replaceable cog in their machine. They'd celebrated with champagne when they voted me out, confident in their decision to remove the weak link. They'd learned the hard way that in a technology company, the person who holds the patents holds the power, And sometimes, the quiet one in the corner, the one taking notes and solving problems, is the most dangerous person in the room. Not because I'd planned revenge, I'd simply protected myself. Not because I wanted to destroy them, I wanted to build something better. But because when you systematically undervalue someone for decades, when you dismiss their contributions and diminish their worth, you create your own downfall. My brothers had thought they were the kings of Morrison Industries. They'd forgotten that every king needs a kingdom, and I'd been the one building it all along. When they kicked me out, they discovered that without the builder, all they had was an empty castle and a throne with no power. Now, I sit in that conference room, my conference room, and look at the framed patent certificates lining the walls, each one a reminder of what I built, what I protected, and what I've earned. The champagne cork had sounded like a gunshot that day, but it wasn't my funeral they were celebrating. It was their own.
I unlocked the door to my apartment, the familiar scent of vanilla and lavender fabric softener washing over me like a warm hug. Home. After 3 weeks away for a work conference, all I'd wanted was this moment, my space, my sanctuary, my little corner of calm in this chaotic city. "Sid, you're back?" Michaela's voice rang from the kitchen, followed by the soft padding of sock-covered feet on hardwood. I was about to order dinner. Starving? God, yes. I dropped my suitcase by the door, rolling my shoulders to release the tension of travel. I could eat a horse. Michaela appeared in the doorway, her blonde hair piled high in a messy bun, oversized sweater hanging off one shoulder. My roommate of 3 years and closest friend since college. The person who'd kept our apartment alive while I was gone. "I got your favorite wine," she sing-songed, disappearing back toward the kitchen. "And Blair's coming over later. She wants all the conference dirt." I smiled, trailing her through our apartment. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. The mismatched furniture we'd collected from thrift stores, the gallery wall of concert tickets and travel photos, the permanent dent in our couch from countless movie nights. "You're suspiciously chipper," I called after her, dropping onto a bar stool at our kitchen island. "What happened while I was gone? Did you finally get that promotion?" Michaela turned, 2 glasses of Cabernet in hand, her smile faltering just slightly. Something flickered behind her eyes, so quick I almost missed it. "Nothing major," she said, sliding a glass toward me. "Just glad you're home. Missed my partner in crime." I took a long sip, letting the wine warm me from the inside. Well, the conference was brutal. 16-hour days pitching to clients who couldn't tell a marketing strategy from a grocery list. "But you killed it, right? You always do." "I think so." My boss seemed impressed. I ran my finger along the edge of my glass, though I'm still not sure it was worth missing Thanksgiving with my family. Michaela's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, then flipped it face down with unusual quickness. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Just work stuff," she waved dismissively. "So tell me everything. Any conference hookups? Drunken embarrassments? Office gossip?" We fell into our familiar rhythm, laughing over wine as I recounted stories from my trip. But something felt off. Michaela kept checking her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Her laughter seemed rehearsed, her questions automatic rather than engaged. When Blair arrived an hour later, the strange tension only intensified. Blair hugged me tight, her familiar perfume enveloping me. "Sydney, thank God you're back. I've been third-wheeling with this one for weeks," she said, nudging Michaela with her elbow. Michaela's laugh was too high, too sharp. "Third-wheeling?" I asked, looking between them. Blair's smile froze. "You know, with all her dates and stuff." "What dates?" I turned to Michaela, who was suddenly very interested in refilling her wineglass. "Just a few casual things," Michaela said lightly. "Nothing serious." Blair's eyes widened slightly, darting between us. "I thought you told her about—" "It's nothing," Michaela cut in. "Sydney just got home. Let's not bore her with my pathetic dating life." The conversation shifted, but the undercurrent remained. Something was happening that I wasn't privy to. I excused myself to unpack, needing a moment alone to shake the unsettled feeling crawling up my spine. In my bedroom, I dropped my suitcase on the bed and took a deep breath. Maybe I was overreacting. 3 weeks away had made me paranoid, that's all. I was tired from travel, imagining tension where there was none. I opened my closet to hang up my conference clothes and froze. Half the closet was empty. My winter sweaters, my favorite jeans, my collection of vintage concert t-shirts. Gone. Frowning, I checked my dresser drawers. Also half empty. Had Michaela moved my things? Was she using my closet while I was away? That's when I saw it. A white envelope on my nightstand, my name written in unfamiliar handwriting. I tore it open, my heart suddenly pounding. The first line made my blood run cold. Notice of lease termination and eviction. My eyes skimmed the legal jargon, catching phrases like 30 days notice and new tenant agreement. The date on the notice was from 2 weeks ago, while I was away. I stood there, letter trembling in my hand, as the apartment door opened and closed. Voices murmured, then footsteps approached my room. "Sydney?" Michaela called, knocking softly. "Everything okay?" I turned toward the door, the eviction notice clutched in my fist, as the truth crashed over me like ice water. "You're kicking me out of our apartment?" Michaela's face did something complicated. Surprise, guilt, then a forced neutrality that made my stomach turn. She pushed my door open wider, stepping into my half-empty room. "I was going to tell you tonight," she said, her voice unnaturally calm. "After you settled in." "Tell me what? That you're replacing me?" I held up the eviction notice, my hand shaking. "While I was away at a work conference? What the actual fuck, Michaela?" She sighed, leaning against my dresser like we were discussing a minor inconvenience. "It's not personal, Sid." "Not personal?" My voice cracked. "We've lived together for 3 years. We split the security deposit. We picked out this apartment together." Blair appeared in the doorway behind her, eyes wide. "I should probably go." "No, stay," I said, suddenly desperate not to be alone with Michaela. "I'd love to hear if you knew about this too." Blair's silence was answer enough. "Great." I laughed, the sound brittle even to my own ears. "So everyone knew I was being kicked out except me." "Look, things changed while you were gone," Michaela said, crossing her arms. "My cousin Isabella needs a place to stay. She just moved to the city and—" "And what? I'm suddenly disposable. You couldn't have called me. I texted you about it." "No, you didn't." I grabbed my phone, scrolling frantically through our messages. Nothing about eviction, nothing about moving out. Just normal roommate check-ins and cat memes. "I definitely texted you," she insisted. "You must have missed it with all your conference stuff." The lie was so blatant it took my breath away. 3 weeks of messages and not one mentioned I was being kicked out of my own home. "Show me," I challenged. "Show me the text where you told me I needed to find a new place to live." Michaela's fingers flew over her phone screen, scrolling up and down. "I can't find it right now, but I definitely sent it." Blair shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe we should all take a breath." "I don't need a breath," I snapped. "I need answers. When am I supposed to be out? Where am I supposed to go?" "The notice gives you 30 days, Michaela said, not meeting my eyes. "But Isabella's lease ends next week, so if you could be out by then." "Next week?" The room spun. "Are you fucking kidding me? It's December. Do you know how hard it is to find an apartment during the holidays?" "You can stay with your brother, can't you?" Michaela suggested, as if Robert and I had spoken in years. As if she didn't know exactly why we didn't. I grabbed the nearest object, a coffee mug from my nightstand, and hurled it against the wall. It shattered, the sound sharp and satisfying. Blair flinched. Michaela didn't. "Get out of my room," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. After they left, I sank onto my bed, mind racing. Where would I go? How would I afford a new security deposit? Why would Michaela do this? I called my boss, explaining through tears that I needed an emergency personal day tomorrow. Then I texted Blair, "Need to talk, just you. Meet me for coffee tomorrow?" Her response came quickly. "Of course, 10 a.m. at Groundwork." Sleep evaded me. I scrolled through Michaela's social media looking for clues. Nothing seemed unusual until I reached posts from 2 weeks ago. Photos of her and a girl who looked strikingly similar to her, arranging furniture in what was unmistakably our living room. The caption read, "So excited to have my favourite cousin as my new roomie. Ours Isabella Ferguson. Family first." Comments flooded the post. OMG, your apartment is gorgeous. Cousin roomies are the best. What happened to Sydney? To that last comment, Michaela had replied, she decided to move on to bigger things. My throat closed up. She'd been planning this for weeks. While I was working 16-hour days, she was erasing me from our apartment, from her life. I threw my phone across the room. The next morning, I arrived at Groundwork Cafe early, eyes swollen, running on maybe 2 hours of sleep. Blair slid into the seat across from me, pushing over an extra coffee. "I'm so sorry, Sid," she said immediately. "I only found out last week when I stopped by and Isabella was there. Michaela told me you two had discussed it." "She's lying." I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. "She never said a word." Blair hesitated. "There's something else you should know." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Isabella isn't just staying temporarily. She's taking over your part of the lease, permanently." "That's not possible. My name is on the lease." Blair's expression was pained. "Not anymore. Michaela told the landlord you were moving out voluntarily. She forged your signature on the paperwork." The cafe noise faded to a dull roar in my ears. Forgery. That was illegal. That was criminal. "How do you know this?" I whispered. "Isabella was drunk last weekend, bragging about how Michaela handled everything so she could move in." Blair leaned forward. "Sid, this isn't just shitty roommate behavior. This is premeditated. And I think I know why." She pulled out her phone, opened Instagram, and slid it across the table. There was Michaela, arm around Isabella, standing in front of a sleek office building. The caption made my blood freeze, celebrating my cousin's new marketing director position at Vertex Media. So proud. Vertex Media, my company's biggest competitor, the one that had been trying to poach our clients for months. "She didn't just want you out of the apartment," Blair said quietly. "She wanted you distracted, homeless, vulnerable." I stared at the photo, something dark and unfamiliar uncurling inside me. "She has no idea who she's messing with," I said. I spent the next 3 days in a cheap hotel, burning through my savings while my mind raced with possibilities. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was professional, calculated. My homelessness wasn't collateral damage, it was the point. "You need to tell your boss," Blair said over the phone, "if Isabella's trying to steal clients." "Not yet." I paced the cramped hotel room. "I need proof first. Otherwise, I'm just the unstable employee making accusations because my roommate kicked me out." What I didn't tell Blair was that I'd already started gathering evidence. I'd created a fake email account and reached out to Isabella, posing as a potential client who'd heard great things about her work at Vertex. Her eager response included a portfolio featuring marketing strategies suspiciously similar to ones I'd developed. But I needed more. Something concrete that showed Michaela's involvement. I checked my watch. 2:15 p.m. Michaela would be at her yoga class until 4. I knew her schedule better than my own, a fact she was counting on to avoid me while I moved out. Too bad for her, I had no intention of moving out quietly. 20 minutes later, I stood outside our apartment door, key in hand. My heart hammered against my ribs as I listened for any sound inside. Silence. I slipped the key in, half expecting it wouldn't work, that she'd changed the locks already. It turned smoothly. The apartment looked different. My books were gone from the shelves, replaced by decorative objects I'd never seen. The throw blanket my grandmother had knitted, removed. The kitchen island where I'd sat just days ago was covered with unfamiliar makeup products and fashion magazines. It was like I'd never lived here. I moved quickly to Michaela's room, guilt and righteousness warring in my chest. This wasn't breaking in. My name was still on the lease for 27 more days. Still, my hands trembled as I eased her door open. Her room was its usual organized chaos. Clothes draped over chairs, jewelry scattered across her dresser. I headed straight for her laptop sitting open on her desk. Password protected, of course. I tried the usual. Her birthday, her cat's name, our apartment number. Nothing worked. "Think, Sydney," I muttered. What had changed in her life recently? Isabella. I typed in Isabella and hit enter. Password incorrect. Isabella NYC. The screen unlocked. Amateur, I whispered, opening her email. I found what I needed in minutes. An email chain between Michaela and Isabella spanning months. They'd planned everything. Isabella would get hired at Vertex, Michaela would help her access my client information, and in return, Isabella would help Michaela land a job there too. My eviction was timed perfectly with my biggest client presentations, ensuring maximum disruption to my work. I forwarded the emails to myself, then took screenshots for good measure. As I was closing the laptop, a text notification popped up on Michaela's phone, which lay charging nearby. Isabella. Did Sydney move her stuff out yet? My furniture arrives tomorrow. My throat tightened. Tomorrow. They expected me gone by tomorrow. I grabbed the phone, my fingers flying across the screen. Michaela. Not yet. Having trouble finding a place. Might need another week. The response came immediately. Isabella. Are you kidding? I can't stay in this Airbnb any longer. Get her out. Michaela. I'll handle it. I set the phone down, a plan forming. I needed time to secure my job, find a new place, and make Michaela pay for what she'd done. And now I knew exactly how to buy that time. I left the apartment as quietly as I'd entered, stopping at a hardware store on the way back to my hotel. That evening, I called Blair. I need a favor, I said. Can I crash at your place for a few days? Of course, she said immediately. But what happened to staying at the hotel? Change of plans. I smiled at the new key in my hand, an exact copy of our apartment key. I'm going to make Michaela's life difficult. Sydney? Blair's voice held a warning. What are you planning? Nothing illegal. Not technically true, but close enough. Just buying myself some time. The next morning I waited until I knew Michaela would be at work. Then I returned to the apartment with a small bag of supplies. It took less than 20 minutes to complete my task, removing the pins from the hinges of my bedroom door, then carefully replacing the door so it looked untouched. I sent a text to Michaela. Coming by to get the last of my things this afternoon. Left my key on the counter. Her response was immediate and cold. Fine. Be out by 5. I left an old key on the counter, not the new copy I'd made, and walked out, smiling to myself. At 6:30 p.m., my phone rang. Michaela. What did you do to the door? She demanded, voice tight with anger. What door? I asked innocently. Your bedroom door. It won't open, and Isabella's stuff is being delivered tomorrow. That's strange, I said. Must be stuck. Old building, you know how it is. Fix it, she hissed. I don't live there anymore, remember? You kicked me out. Sydney. You know what's interesting, Michaela? I cut her off. I found those emails between you and Isabella, the ones about stealing my clients. My boss found them interesting too. Silence stretched between us. You're bluffing, she finally said, but uncertainty wavered in her voice. Am I? Check your sent folder. I heard her breathing quicken. What do you want? 1 month, I said. I stay in the apartment for 1 more month while I find a new place. My bedroom remains mine, and you and Isabella stay the hell away from my clients. Or what? Or those emails go to Vertex's HR department, the landlord, and maybe even a lawyer. Forgery is a crime, Michaela. More silence then. Fine, 1 month. I hung up and leaned back against Blair's couch, the adrenaline of confrontation fading into something quieter, more painful. I'd won this round, but the victory felt hollow. I'd trusted Michaela completely. We'd shared holidays, secrets, inside jokes. How had I missed the snake beneath the smile? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Isabella. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I stared at the message, something cold and determined settling in my chest. No, Isabella had it backwards. She had no idea who she was dealing with. Living with your enemies is a special kind of psychological torture. The apartment that had once been my sanctuary became a battleground of passive-aggressive notes, icy silences, and territorial disputes over the refrigerator. Isabella had moved in despite the bedroom door issue, sleeping on the living room couch and making sure I knew about her discomfort with loud sighs and pointed comments whenever I passed through. Michaela barely acknowledged my existence, communicating exclusively through terse text messages even when we were in the same room. Fine by me. I had bigger concerns than their comfort. I'd shown the incriminating emails to my boss, who'd immediately put me on a special project away from client-facing work for my protection. Translation: I was being sidelined until they determined whether I was a liability. It's just temporary, my boss had assured me. Legal needs to review everything. A week into this fragile truce, I sat at my desk at work, staring at my computer screen without seeing it. My phone buzzed with a text from Blair. Any progress on apartment hunting? I sighed. Not yet. Everything's either a closet or a palace, nothing in between. Keep looking. Living with those two can't be good for your mental health. She wasn't wrong. Every night in that apartment felt like sleeping with one eye open. But I wasn't ready to retreat. Not yet. I'll be fine, I texted back. Meeting with HR today about the emails. Hopefully they'll take action against Isabella. Good luck. Drinks after? Definitely. The HR meeting went exactly as I'd expected. Lots of concerned nods, careful note-taking, and zero concrete promises. We take these allegations very seriously, the HR director said, which I'd learned was corporate speak for, we're going to do nothing. By the time I met Blair at our favourite bar that evening, my frustration had crystallised into something harder, more determined. They're not going to do anything, I said, sliding into the booth across from her. Too messy, too complicated. They'd rather just keep me away from clients than risk a confrontation with Vertex. Blair pushed a gin and tonic toward me. I'm sorry, Sid. That's bullshit. It is what it is. I took a long sip. But I'm not giving up. What's your next move? I hesitated. Blair had been my rock through this nightmare, but even she might balk at what I was planning. I'm going to make Isabella mess up, I said carefully. Publicly, professionally. Blair's eyebrows rose. How exactly? I've been creating a fake client profile. High value, exactly the kind of account Isabella would want to land. I'm going to approach her as this client, get her to pitch me, and then... Sydney, Blair set her drink down. That sounds like entrapment. It's not entrapment if she's already planning to steal clients. I'm just giving her the opportunity to show her true colours. Blair studied my face. This isn't like you. The Sydney I know doesn't play these kinds of games. The Sydney you knew didn't have her life blown up by people she trusted. My voice came out sharper than intended. Besides, what choice do I have? HR won't help. I'm being pushed out at work. I need to protect myself. I get that, but do you? I cut her off. Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like everyone's telling me to just roll over and take it, find a new apartment, let Michaela and Isabella win. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Blair reached across the table, her hand covering mine. I'm saying be careful. Don't become someone you'll hate just to get revenge. Her words hit harder than I wanted to admit. I pulled my hand away, suddenly needing space. I should go, I said, standing abruptly. Early meeting tomorrow. Sydney, wait. But I was already walking away, guilt and anger warring in my chest. The apartment was quiet when I got home. A note on the counter informed me that Michaela and Isabella were at a work event. Good. I needed the solitude. I opened my laptop and stared at the fake client profile I'd created. Blair's words echoed in my head. Don't become someone you'll hate. Was that what I was doing? My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Is this Sydney? It's Marshall from Groundwork Cafe. Blair gave me your number. Hope that's okay. I frowned, trying to place the name. Then it clicked. The barista who always remembered my order. The one with the kind eyes who'd slipped me an extra cookie last week when I'd looked particularly miserable. Yes, it's Sydney. Hi. I know this is out of the blue, but I was wondering if you'd like to grab dinner sometime. No pressure. I stared at the message, a strange feeling washing over me. In the midst of all this chaos and betrayal, here was something simple, something normal. I'd like that, I typed back before I could overthink it. His response came quickly. Great. How about tomorrow night? I know a great Thai place. Tomorrow works. I set my phone down, surprised by the small smile on my face. For a moment, I'd forgotten about Michaela, Isabella, the fake client profile, all of it. The front door opened and voices filled the apartment. Michaela and Isabella back from their event, laughing about something. The sound grated against my momentary peace. Oh, Michaela said, spotting me in the kitchen. You're here. I live here, I replied evenly. For 3 more weeks, anyway. Isabella smirked, dropping her designer bag on the counter. Not for long if you keep getting sidelined at work. Heard you're off the Westridge account. My blood went cold. How did she know that? Careful, Isabella, I said quietly. Corporate espionage is a serious offence. Is it espionage to hear office gossip? She shrugged. People talk, especially about employees who might not be around much longer. The implication was clear. They weren't just trying to take my home. They were actively working to get me fired. As they disappeared into Michaela's room, I turned back to my laptop, my resolve hardening. Blair's warning faded against the reality of what I was facing. The fake client profile stared back at me. I began to type, crafting an email to Isabella that would set my trap. Some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed. I was about to step over one. The Thai restaurant was tucked between a laundromat and a bookstore, easy to miss unless you knew it was there. Marshall waited outside, hands in his pockets, looking up and down the street for me. When our eyes met, his smile was immediate and warm. You found it, he said, holding the door open. Your directions were very specific, I replied, stepping inside. The restaurant was small but cozy, string lights crisscrossing the ceiling, the air heavy with spices. Over steaming bowls of curry, Marshall told me about his photography side hustle, his rescue dog, and his dream of opening his own cafe someday. I found myself laughing for the first time in weeks. It felt foreign, almost wrong, like I was betraying my own anger. So what's your story, he asked, refilling my water glass. Blair mentioned you're going through some stuff, but she was pretty vague. I hesitated. The last thing I wanted was to dump my drama on this nice, normal guy. But something about his steady gaze made me want to be honest. My roommate kicked me out while I was away on a business trip, I said. And it turns out she and her cousin were plotting to sabotage my career. To his credit, Marshall didn't flinch. That's intense. Are you okay? Not really, I admitted. I'm still living there temporarily and it's a nightmare. But I'm handling it. Handling it how? I took a sip of water, avoiding his eyes. Let's just say I'm not going down without a fight. Marshall nodded slowly. Just be careful. Revenge has a way of consuming people. You sound like Blair. Blair's smart, he said with a slight smile, and she cares about you. A lot. Something in his tone made me look up. Did she put you up to this? Asking me out? No, he said quickly. Then, more honestly, well, she mentioned you might need a distraction, but I've wanted to ask you out for months. Just never had the courage until she gave me your number. I wasn't sure how to feel about that, annoyed at Blair's interference or touched by her concern. Maybe both. I'm glad you called, I said finally. I needed this more than I realized. Walking home later, I felt lighter somehow. For a few hours, I'd been just Sydney. Not the victim, not the avenger, just a woman on a date with a nice guy. It was a glimpse of what normal could feel like again. The feeling evaporated the moment I opened my apartment door. Isabella sat at the kitchen island, her laptop open, a smug smile playing on her lips as she looked up at me. Fun date? She asked. I ignored her, heading straight for my room. Not so fast, she called after me. We need to talk about this email I received today from Westridge Corp. Ring any bells? I froze, my back to her. Westridge Corp was the fake company I'd created. I have no idea what you're talking about, I said, turning slowly. Isabella's smile widened. Really? because it's strange that a potential client would reach out to me directly using industry jargon that sounds suspiciously like your writing style. My heart pounded. You're paranoid. Am I? She turned her laptop toward me. On the screen was my email, and next to it a marketing proposal I'd written months ago. The similarities in phrasing were unmistakable. "I'm not an idiot, Sydney," Isabella said, her voice hardening. "Did you really think I wouldn't recognize a trap when I saw one?" "I don't know what you're talking about," I repeated, but the words sounded hollow even to me. "Save it." She closed her laptop with a snap. "I've already forwarded this to HR at both our companies. Harassment, corporate sabotage, take your pick of what they'll call it." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. "You're bluffing. Check your work email." Her smile was vicious now. "Oh wait, you can't. Your access has been temporarily suspended pending an investigation." I grabbed my phone, hands shaking as I opened my work email app. Access denied. I tried again. Same message. "You—" I started, but Isabella cut me off. "You did this to yourself," she said, standing. "You couldn't just walk away. You had to play games." "You stole my home," I hissed. "You're trying to steal my job. What was I supposed to do?" "Not this," she gestured to her laptop. "Not something that could get you fired or worse. Like you care." "I don't," she agreed. "But Michaela might. She actually felt bad about all this, you know. Until you started your little revenge campaign." The mention of Michaela sent a fresh wave of anger through me. "Where is she?" "Out. She doesn't know about this yet." Isabella picked up her phone. "But she will soon. And then you'll be out of this apartment for good." I retreated to my room, locking the door behind me. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'd been so careful with that email, creating it from a new account, using a VPN. How had she connected it to me so easily? My phone buzzed with a text from Blair. "How was the date?" I couldn't even think about the date now. "I messed up. Bad. Isabella caught me trying to trap her. She reported me to HR. Blair's response came immediately. "Coming over. Don't do anything else." I paced my room, panic rising in my throat. If I lost my job over this, I'd have nothing. No home, no income, no way to fight back. A knock at my bedroom door made me jump. "Sydney?" It was Michaela's voice, quiet but firm. "We need to talk." I opened the door, bracing for the worst. But Michaela's expression wasn't triumphant or angry. She looked tired. "Isabella told me what happened," she said. "I'm sure she did." "This has gone too far." Michaela ran a hand through her hair. "Both of us, we're acting crazy." "Both of us?" I laughed bitterly. "I'm not the one who forged signatures and stole an apartment. No, you're just the one creating fake companies to entrap people." She sighed. "Look, I got a call from our landlord today. The building's being sold. We're all getting eviction notices next week." I stared at her, certain this was another trick. "What?" "It's true. 30-day notice. Everyone out." She met my eyes directly. "So this whole fight, it's pointless now?" Before I could respond, my phone rang. Unknown number. With a sense of dread, I answered. "Is this Sydney?" A man's voice, formal and cold. "Yes." "This is David from HR. I need you to come in tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for a disciplinary meeting regarding some serious allegations that have been brought to our attention." As he continued outlining the charges against me, I looked at Michaela, still standing in my doorway. The irony wasn't lost on me. We were both about to lose this apartment, but only one of us was about to lose everything else too. Blair arrived 20 minutes later, bursting through the front door like a hurricane. She found me sitting on my bed, staring at the wall, Michaela's revelation about the building sale still ringing in my ears. "What happened?" Blair demanded, shutting my bedroom door behind her. "Tell me everything." I recounted it all mechanically. The fake client email, Isabella catching me, the HR call. Blair listened without interrupting, her expression growing more troubled with each detail. "This is bad, Sid," she said when I finished. "Really bad." "I know." "No, I don't think you do." She sat beside me on the bed. "Corporate entrapment isn't just grounds for firing, it could be legally actionable. Isabella could sue you." She won't, I said, though I wasn't sure why I felt so certain. This is about getting me fired, not dragging things out in court. And that's supposed to make you feel better? Blair shook her head. What were you thinking? I was thinking they were trying to destroy my life, my voice cracked. What would you have done? Blair was quiet for a moment. I would have walked away, found a new apartment, focused on my career, moved on. Easy to say when you're not the one it's happening to. Sydney, no. I stood up, suddenly unable to sit still. You don't get it. This isn't just about an apartment or a job. It's about the fact that someone I trusted completely betrayed me. Again. Blair's expression softened. This isn't about your brother, Sid. Isn't it? I laughed bitterly. Robert abandoned me when I needed him most. Michaela kicked me out when I was most vulnerable. The pattern's pretty clear. That's not fair to Robert. He was going through his own stuff. Don't defend him. The words came out sharper than I intended. Not now. Blair held up her hands in surrender. Okay. Let's focus on the immediate problem. What are you going to say at this HR meeting tomorrow? I hadn't thought that far ahead. My mind was a storm of fear and anger, making it impossible to think strategically. I don't know, I admitted. Deny everything? With what evidence? If Isabella has those emails. My phone buzzed with a text. I expected Marshall checking in after our date. Instead, it was a number I hadn't seen in years. It's Robert, we need to talk. I'm in town. I stared at the screen, unable to process this new complication. My estranged brother reaching out now after years of silence. The timing was too bizarre. Who is it? Blair asked, noticing my expression. I handed her the phone wordlessly. Holy shit, she whispered. Are you going to respond? Before I could answer, another text came through. Michaela called me, said you're in trouble. Let me help. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Michaela called him? Behind my back? Blair's eyes widened. Wait, they know each other? No, at least I didn't think so. My mind raced. How would she even have his number? A knock at my door interrupted us. Michaela stood there, her expression unreadable. Your brother's on his way over, she said without preamble. You had no right, I said, my voice shaking. No right to contact him. Someone had to, she replied. You're spiraling, Sydney. You need family right now. Family? I laughed, the sound harsh and brittle. You mean the brother who cut me off when our parents died? Who left me to handle everything alone while he disappeared to find himself? Michaela had the decency to look uncomfortable. He said it was complicated. How long have you been in touch with him? I demanded. She hesitated. A few months. He reached out looking for you but asked me not to tell you yet. He wanted to make things right in person. The room seemed to tilt. All this time, Michaela had been talking to Robert behind my back, while planning to kick me out, while conspiring with Isabella. Get out, I whispered. Sydney. Get out, I screamed, something breaking loose inside me. Both of you, get out! Blair touched my arm. I'm staying. No, I pulled away. I need to be alone. Please. After they left, I sat in the silence of my room trying to make sense of everything. Robert was coming here. After 5 years of nothing, he was walking back into my life at my lowest moment. Because Michaela called him. My phone buzzed again. Robert. Almost there. Please talk to me. I turned my phone off and curled up on my bed, feeling like that 16-year-old girl again. The one who stood at our parents' funeral while Robert, 21 and drowning in his own grief, told me he needed space. The one who handled the estate, the house sale, the insurance claims, all while finishing high school alone. The doorbell rang 30 minutes later. I heard murmured voices in the living room, Michaela letting Robert in. Then a knock at my bedroom door. Sid? His voice deeper than I remembered. It's me. I didn't answer. I know you're angry, he continued. You have every right to be, but I can help with this HR situation. I'm a lawyer now. That got my attention. I opened the door to find an older, more polished version of my brother. The wild hair was now neatly cut, the band t-shirts replaced by a button-down. but his eyes were the same, our mother's eyes. "A lawyer," I repeated flatly. "Congratulations. Employment law, specifically." He shifted uncomfortably. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside, allowing him into my room. He looked around, taking in the half-packed boxes, the general disarray. "Michaela told me what's been happening," he said. "All of it. I'm sure she did." "What she did was wrong," he said, surprising me. "But this revenge plan, it's going to backfire, Sydney. Let me help you salvage your job, at least." "Why now?" I asked, the question that had burned in me for years. "Why show up now?" Robert's eyes met mine, filled with regret and something else, determination. "Because I'm not making the same mistake twice," he said. "I abandoned you once. I won't do it again." I wanted to scream at him, to throw him out like I had Michaela and Blair. But a small, desperate part of me recognized the lifeline he was offering. "The HR meeting is at 9 tomorrow," I said finally. "Don't be late." Robert and I arrived at my office building at 8:30 the next morning. I hadn't slept, my mind racing between the HR meeting, Robert's sudden reappearance, and Michaela's betrayal. My body felt hollow, running on nothing but anxiety and 3 cups of coffee. "Remember what we discussed," Robert said as we rode the elevator up. "Let me do most of the talking. Don't admit to anything." I nodded mechanically. We'd spent hours last night going over a strategy, deny the fake email, question the evidence, suggest Isabella had fabricated the whole thing out of professional jealousy. It felt wrong, more lies to cover lies. But I was desperate. The elevator doors opened to reveal Isabella standing in the lobby talking to my boss. They both turned as we approached, Isabella's expression shifting from confident to uncertain at the sight of Robert in his crisp suit, leather briefcase in hand. "Sydney," my boss said, his tone carefully neutral. "The meeting's in conference room B. Who's this?" "Robert Miller," my brother said, extending his hand. "Sydney's legal counsel." My boss's eyebrows shot up. "Legal counsel? This is just an internal review, not a court proceeding." "Nevertheless," Robert replied smoothly, "given the serious nature of the allegations, my sister has the right to representation." Isabella's smug smile had vanished completely. In the conference room, David from HR sat with another woman I didn't recognize. Files were spread before them, including printouts of what I assumed were the damning emails. "Before we begin," Robert said as soon as we sat down, "I'd like to address the fundamental conflict of interest here. Isabella Ferguson has a personal vendetta against my sister that extends beyond the workplace." "That's not true," Isabella interjected. Robert ignored her. "Ms. Ferguson is cousins with Sydney's roommate, who recently attempted to illegally evict Sydney from their shared apartment. We have evidence of forged documents and conspiracy to displace my client during her business trip." The HR representatives exchanged glances. "While that's concerning," David said carefully, "it doesn't address the allegations that Sydney created a fake company to entrap Ms. Ferguson." "About those allegations," Robert continued, "we've reviewed the emails in question. There's no evidence connecting them to my sister beyond Ms. Ferguson's speculation. In fact, we have reason to believe Ms. Ferguson fabricated this entire scenario to discredit Sydney professionally." My heart pounded as Robert laid out our counter-narrative, that Isabella, desperate to eliminate competition, had created the fake email herself to frame me. It was bold, audacious, and completely dishonest. I watched Isabella's face flush with anger, saw my boss's furrowed brow as he tried to determine who was telling the truth. This wasn't justice. This was just more manipulation, more lies. "Stop," I said suddenly. Robert turned to me, warning in his eyes. "Sydney? No." I straightened in my chair, a strange calm washing over me. "I'm not doing this." I looked directly at David from HR. "I sent the email. I created the fake company. I was trying to catch Isabella stealing clients because I had evidence she and Michaela were conspiring against me." The room went silent. Robert closed his eyes briefly, defeat written across his face. "Sydney," my boss began, his tone grave, "that's a serious admission." I know. My voice was steady now. And I'll accept whatever consequences come with it. But I want everyone to know exactly what happened. I pulled out my phone and opened the email app. These are the original emails between Michaela and Isabella, planning to use my client information. This is the forged lease termination. This is evidence of them planning to disrupt my work during critical presentations. I laid it all out. Every manipulation, every betrayal, every step that had led me to this desperate act. When I finished, the room was silent again, but different this time. Heavier. This doesn't excuse my actions, I said finally, but it explains them. I was fighting to save my career, my home, my life. David cleared his throat. We'll need to review all of this evidence. Of course, I stood up. In the meantime, I understand if you need to suspend me. My boss spoke up. Let's take a short break. Isabella, I'd like to speak with you privately. As Isabella followed my boss out, her face pale with fury, Robert turned to me. Why did you do that? He asked quietly. We could have won. No, I said. We could have escaped. It's not the same thing. We sat in silence until the door opened again. My boss returned alone. Isabella has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation, he said. The emails you provided are concerning, to say the least. However, he continued, his expression hardening, your actions were still inappropriate and potentially illegal. I nodded, accepting the inevitable. I'll be recommending a 2-week suspension without pay, he said, and probation for 6 months. Any further incidents will result in immediate termination. Relief washed over me so intensely I nearly collapsed. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, he warned. There will be a formal warning in your file, and you'll need to work with a different team for a while. Trust needs to be rebuilt. As we left the building, Robert put his hand on my shoulder. That was brave. Stupid, but brave. I couldn't keep lying, I said. It was destroying me from the inside out. What now? He asked. I checked my phone. A text from Michaela. We need to talk, face to face, tonight. Now, I said. I finished this. The apartment was quiet when I arrived that evening. Michaela sat alone at the kitchen island, 2 glasses of wine poured. No sign of Isabella. She's staying at a hotel, Michaela said, answering my unasked question. Probably for the best. I took the seat across from her but didn't touch the wine. You wanted to talk, so talk. I saw the emails you sent to HR, she said. All of them, including the ones between me and Isabella. And you're right. She met my eyes directly. What we did was wrong. All of it. The apartment, your job, everything. I waited, not trusting myself to speak. I was jealous, she continued, her voice smaller now. You were always the successful one, the one with the perfect career trajectory. When Isabella offered me a way into Vertex, I jumped at it. I didn't think about what it would do to you. You were my friend, I said, the words like glass in my throat. I trusted you. I know. She pushed her phone across the counter to me. On the screen was a video, Michaela looking directly at the camera. What's this? Press play. I hit the button and Michaela's voice filled the kitchen. My name is Michaela Norton, and I'm recording this confession voluntarily. I conspired with my cousin Isabella Ferguson to illegally evict my roommate Sydney Miller and undermine her professional reputation. I forged Sydney's signature on lease documents and planned to steal client information. The confession continued for 3 minutes, detailing everything they'd done. When it ended, I looked up at the real Michaela, speechless. It's yours, she said quietly, to use however you want. I've already sent a copy to your brother. Why? I managed finally. Because you told the truth when it would have been easier to lie. She stood up. And because some things can't be fixed with words alone. I stared at Michaela's phone, her confession still ringing in my ears. The power I'd been chasing for weeks now sat in my palm. Concrete evidence I could take to the landlord, to HR, maybe even to the police. What do you expect me to do with this? I asked. Michaela shrugged, vulnerability naked on her face. Whatever you need to, I just couldn't keep living with what we did. I set the phone down between us, suddenly exhausted. The vindication I'd imagined feeling in this moment was nowhere to be found. Instead, I felt hollow, scraped clean of the anger that had been fueling me. Why did you call Robert? I asked. The question had been burning in me since he appeared. Michaela's eyes dropped to her wine glass. Because I knew you wouldn't listen to me, and because he called looking for you months ago. What? Why? Your parents' house finally sold, she said quietly. He needed your signature on the paperwork. The house, our childhood home, sitting empty since our parents died. The last physical reminder of the family we'd once been. He could have called me himself, I said, the old hurt rising. He tried. You blocked his number, remember? After that Christmas fight? I had. 3 years ago, when his absence had become too painful to bear. I'd blocked his calls, his emails, erased him from my life the way he'd erased me from his. I should go, I said, standing abruptly. This was too much. Michaela's confession, Robert's reappearance, the house. I needed space to think. Sydney, wait. Michaela reached for my arm. There's something else you should know. I paused, bracing myself for another revelation. Isabella wasn't just trying to steal your clients, she said. She was trying to get you fired because of Marshall. Marshall? The barista? What does he have to do with anything? They dated last year. It ended badly. When she found out Blair set you two up. Michaela trailed off. I laughed, the sound sharp and disbelieving. So this whole nightmare, my apartment, my job, my life, was collateral damage in some twisted revenge plot against a guy I barely know? Partly, Michaela admitted. The job opportunity at Vertex was real, but Isabella made it personal when she found out about Marshall. I shook my head, processing this absurd new information. All this time I'd thought I was the target, that Michaela and Isabella had conspired specifically to hurt me. But I'd just been convenient, the roommate of the woman dating Isabella's ex, the colleague whose clients Isabella wanted. I need to go, I repeated, grabbing my jacket. Outside, the night air was cool against my flushed skin. I walked aimlessly, Michaela's confession video burning a hole in my pocket where I'd saved it to my phone. What would using it accomplish now? My job was secure, if tenuous. The apartment would be gone in weeks anyway, and revenge, the thing I'd craved so desperately, suddenly seemed pointless. My phone buzzed with a text from Robert. How did it go with Michaela? I hesitated, then called him instead of texting back. She gave me a recorded confession, I said when he answered. About everything. That's great, he said, sounding genuinely relieved. That should help with the landlord situation, at least until you find a new place. Is it true about the house? I asked abruptly. A pause. Yes. It finally sold. I've been trying to reach you about it for months. Why didn't you try harder? The question came out smaller than I intended. Robert was quiet for a long moment. Because I was ashamed, he finally said, of how I left you, of how I handled everything after Mom and Dad died. It was easier to tell myself you were better off without me than to face what I'd done. The honesty in his voice caught me off guard. I needed you, I said simply. I know. I'm sorry, Sid. I can't change the past, but I'm here now, if you'll let me be. I thought about the last few weeks, the betrayal, the anger, the desperate need for revenge that had nearly cost me everything. How much of my reaction had been about Michaela and Isabella, and how much had been the reopened wound of Robert's abandonment. The house money, I said suddenly. What happens to it? Half is yours, he said. It's in an escrow account waiting for you. Enough for a down payment on your own place if that's what you want. My own place. No roommates, no shared spaces, no vulnerability to someone else's whims. The thought was both liberating and lonely. I need to think, I told him, about everything. Take your time, he said. I'm not going anywhere this time. I ended the call and found myself walking toward Blair's apartment. She answered the door in pajamas, surprise turning to concern when she saw my face. "What happened?" she asked, pulling me inside. I told her everything, Michaela's confession, the revelation about Isabella and Marshall, the house sale, my conversation with Robert. "So, what are you going to do?" she asked when I finished. "About the confession video?" I pulled out my phone, staring at the file. One tap and I could send it to HR, to the landlord, post it online for everyone to see. The revenge I'd wanted served on a silver platter. "Delete it," I said, surprising myself. "Are you sure? After everything they did?" I nodded, pressing delete before I could change my mind. Revenge was destroying me, making me someone I didn't recognize. "And Robert? The house money?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I'm done letting the past control my future." Blair smiled, squeezing my hand. "That sounds like the Sydney I know." Later that night, I sat on Blair's balcony staring at the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from Marshall. "Free for coffee tomorrow?" I thought about Isabella, about her petty revenge that had spiraled into something so destructive, about how easily I'd fallen into the same trap, letting anger consume me. "Sorry, not interested in being part of someone else's revenge story," I texted back. His response came quickly. "What? I don't understand." "Ask Isabella," I wrote, then set my phone aside. Tomorrow I would call Robert about the house money. I would start apartment hunting in earnest. I would rebuild what Michaela and Isabella had tried to destroy, not out of vengeance, but because it was mine to rebuild. The realization settled over me like a blanket. The opposite of betrayal isn't revenge. It's reclaiming what's yours. Your power, your peace, your future. I'd spent weeks trying to burn down what others had taken from me. Now it was time to build something new from the ashes, something that couldn't be so easily destroyed, something that was mine alone.
The trust fund was supposed to be my ticket to freedom. Instead, I watched it vanish into a sea of white tulle and overpriced flower arrangements at my cousin's wedding. I'm Caitlin, and this is how my family's betrayal became the catalyst for my revenge. You can't be serious. My voice trembled as I stared at my mother across our kitchen island. The marble countertop felt cold under my palms, grounding me in a moment that seemed surreal. "Sweetie, you have to understand," Mum said, fidgeting with her coffee mug. "Madeline's wedding is in 3 weeks, and Uncle Zach lost everything in that bad investment. We couldn't let her cancel." "So you decided to cancel my future instead?" The words came out sharp enough to make her flinch. "That money was for my business startup. Grandpa left it specifically for me." "It's just money, Caitlin. Family comes first." I laughed, but there was no humour in it. "Family comes first? Then why am I always last?" The sound of the front door opening interrupted us. Madeline waltzed in, wedding binder in hand, her perfectly manicured nails clutching a stack of fabric swatches. Her face lit up when she saw me. "Caitlin, perfect timing. I need your opinion on the table linens for the reception." My stomach churned. She had no idea she was planning her dream wedding with my dreams. "Did you tell her?" I asked Mom, my voice eerily calm. Mum's face paled. "Madeline, sweetheart, maybe we should—" "Tell me what?" Madeline's smile faltered. "That your fancy wedding is being funded by my trust fund, the money Grandpa left me to start my business." I watched the colour drain from her face. "Surprise?" "What?" "No, Dad said he took care of everything." Madeline's voice trailed off as realisation dawned. "Well, Uncle Zach certainly took care of it, with my money." The wedding binder slipped from Madeline's hands, scattering papers across the floor. "I had no idea, I swear. Caitlin, I would never— Save it." I pushed away from the counter. "I need some air." I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, but Mom caught my arm. "Please, let's talk about this. We can figure something out." I yanked my arm free. "Figure what out? How to magically replace $60,000, or how to undo the fact that my own mother went behind my back to raid my trust fund?" "You're being dramatic," she said, her tone shifting to that patronising voice she used when she thought I was overreacting. "Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family. Funny how I'm the only one making sacrifices around here. My sister Scarlett appeared at the top of the stairs, probably drawn by our raised voices. "What's going on?" "Ask Mum," I spat. "She's great at explaining how family works." I stormed out to my car, ignoring their calls. My phone buzzed repeatedly as I drove, but I didn't need to look to know it was them. Probably trying to justify their betrayal with more family-first nonsense. 3 hours later, I sat in my apartment with my laptop open, staring at a confirmation email for a one-way ticket to Seattle. My hands shook as I packed my essentials into 2 suitcases, leaving behind everything that reminded me of them. A soft knock at my door made me freeze. "Go away, Mum." "It's Hugh." I hesitated before opening the door. My cousin Hugh, Madeline's brother, stood there looking uncomfortable. "I heard what happened." "Come to defend your sister?" He shook his head. "What they did was wrong. Dad should have never asked for your money, and Aunt Solstice should have never agreed." "But they did." I turned back to my packing. "Where are you going?" "Away, far away from this mess." Hugh was quiet for a moment. "Will you come to the wedding?" I zipped my suitcase with more force than necessary. "Would you, if you were me?" He didn't answer, which was answer enough. The next morning, I stood at the airport gate, my entire life condensed into 2 bags and a carry-on. My phone showed 15 missed calls and twice as many messages. I deleted them all without reading them. As I settled into my seat on the plane, I made myself a promise. I would build something better than any business I could have started with that trust fund. And when I did, when they saw what I achieved on my own, they'd realise exactly what they threw away. The plane took off, and I watched my hometown disappear beneath the clouds. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting ahead. And that's exactly what I intended to do. Seattle greeted me with its signature rain and a cramped Airbnb that smelled faintly of someone else's cooking. After 3 weeks of job hunting, countless interviews, and living off instant ramen, I was starting to question my impulsive decision to leave. My phone buzzed with another text from Scarlett. "Mum's a mess. Please just call her." I typed back, "Still busy settling in. Talk later." The same response I'd been giving for weeks. The coffee shop, where I'd been camping out to use their Wi-Fi, had become my second home. That's where everything changed. "You've been here every day this week," the barista said, sliding my usual Americano across the counter. "Job hunting." "That obvious." She smiled. "I'm Amanda, and trust me, I've seen that look before. What field?" "Tech, project management specifically." I took a sip of my coffee. Though at this point, I'd consider anything that doesn't involve asking if someone wants fries with that. "Actually," Amanda glanced around before lowering her voice, "my brother works at Horizon Tech. They're desperately looking for a junior project manager. Want me to put in a word?" 2 days later, I sat across from David, the hiring manager at Horizon Tech, trying not to fidget in my carefully chosen interview outfit. "Your resume is impressive," he said, "but there's a gap in your employment history. Why'd you leave your last position so suddenly?" I prepared for this question. "I needed a change. Seattle's tech scene offered opportunities I couldn't find back home." "Honest answer?" He leaned forward. "The real one?" I met his gaze. "My family made some choices that affected my career plans. Instead of letting it defeat me, I decided to rebuild somewhere new. I'm here because I want to prove something to myself more than anyone else." He nodded slowly. "Tell me about the most challenging project you've managed." I launched into my prepared example, but he cut me off. "No, not work. Tell me about moving here, planning, execution, obstacles. Treat it like a project." For the next 20 minutes, I broke down my cross-country move like a case study. Resources, timeline, risk management, contingency plans. David's expression remained neutral until I finished. Then he smiled. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear. When can you start?" Walking out of Horizon Tech with a job offer, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Madeline. "The wedding's in 2 days. There's still time to come. Please?" I deleted it without responding and called my new landlord instead. The apartment I'd viewed yesterday wasn't perfect, but it was within walking distance of Horizon Tech, and more importantly, it was mine. 3 days into my new job, I was drowning in documentation and loving every minute of it. My desk neighbour, Rachel, became my unofficial mentor. "You're catching on fast," she said, peering over my shoulder at my project timeline. "But you might want to add some buffer time here and here." She pointed at the screen. "Trust me, developers always need more time than they claim." "Speaking from experience?" "Let's just say I've learned the hard way." She grinned. "Hey, a bunch of us are grabbing drinks after work. Want to join?" That evening, sitting at a bar with my new co-workers, I checked my phone out of habit. A new email from Mom waited in my inbox. "The wedding was beautiful. Madeline looked perfect. I wish you'd been there. We all did. Please come home for Sunday dinner this week. We can talk about helping you start over here." I set my phone face down on the bar. "Bad news?" Rachel asked. "Just family stuff." "Want to talk about it?" I shook my head. "I'd rather hear about this nightmare project you mentioned earlier, the one with the impossible deadline." As Rachel launched into her story, I felt something shift inside me. Here, nobody knew me as the girl whose family stole her trust fund. Nobody pitied me or tried to justify what happened. I was just Caitlin, the new project manager who asked smart questions and stayed late to learn the systems. Back in my new apartment that night, I sat at my tiny IKEA desk and opened my laptop. My savings account balance was painfully low after the move and apartment deposit, but my first paycheck would hit next week. I created a new spreadsheet and titled it Success Plan. Under it, I typed my first goal, prove them all wrong. The wedding was over. My cousin had gotten her perfect day with my money. But sitting there, planning my future in a city where nobody knew my past, I realised something important. Sometimes the best opportunities come disguised as betrayals. I closed my laptop and smiled. This was just the beginning. 6 months flew by in a blur of deadlines, late nights, and increasingly impressive project deliverables. I just finished presenting my latest success to the executive team when David called me into his office. "Close the door, Caitlin." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Do you know why you're here?" My heart raced. The Thompson account. 3 months ago, that account was hemorrhaging money. Today, they're our biggest success story. He slid a folder across his desk. "Which is why I'm recommending you for senior project manager." I stared at the folder. "But that position usually requires—" "5 years of experience? Yeah, but you've accomplished more in 6 months than most people do in 3 years. He leaned back. "The promotion comes with a substantial raise. Think you can handle it?" I thought about the trust fund, about how my family had thought I couldn't handle running my own business. When do I start? Later that evening, my phone lit up with Scarlett's face. Unlike the rest of the family, I still answered her calls. "You'll never believe what happened," she said, her voice tight with excitement. "What's up?" "I'm engaged. Jake proposed last night and—" She paused. "And I want you to be my maid of honour." The irony wasn't lost on me. "Scarlett, before you say no, hear me out. This isn't like Madeline's wedding. Jake and I are paying for everything ourselves. We're keeping it small, intimate." She took a breath. "And I miss you, Kate. We all do." "I got promoted today," I said instead of addressing the wedding. "Senior project manager." "That's amazing. Mum will be so—" "Don't tell her," I cut in, "or anyone else." Silence filled the line. "They feel terrible, you know, especially after what happened with Uncle Zach's business." "What happened?" "You haven't heard? The whole thing collapsed. They're selling their house. Madeline and her husband moved back in with Uncle Zach and Aunt Diana." I let that sink in. Karma had a weird sense of humour. "Caitlin?" Rachel stuck her head into my office. "Client call in 5 minutes. "I have to go," I told Scarlett. "About the wedding. Let me think about it." The next morning, I arrived early to find David waiting by my office. "Remember that impossible project I mentioned yesterday?" He didn't wait for my response. "It just became more impossible. Client wants to move the deadline up by 6 weeks." I smiled. Give me an hour to revise the timeline. That's why you're the best. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and your new salary takes effect immediately. I pulled up my banking app during lunch. The numbers made me blink twice. My new monthly salary was more than what remained of my trust fund would have been. Rachel dropped into the chair across from my desk with 2 coffees. Celebrating the promotion? Something like that. I closed the app. My sister just got engaged. That's great. When's the wedding? I don't know if I'm going. Rachel raised an eyebrow. Family drama? You could say that. I took a sip of coffee. The last wedding I was supposed to attend didn't end well. Want to talk about it? For the first time since arriving in Seattle, I did. I told her everything. The trust fund, the betrayal, my escape. Damn, she said when I finished. No wonder you work like you have something to prove. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who recognizes the signs. She smiled. I did the same thing after my divorce, threw myself into work, avoided anything that reminded me of my ex. It worked until it didn't. What do you mean? At some point you have to decide if you're working this hard for yourself or to prove them wrong. One drives you forward, the other just keeps you angry. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Hugh. Got your number from Scarlett. We need to talk about the family. It's important. I showed Rachel the message. Looks like the universe is trying to tell you something, she said. Yeah, that karma's real. I put my phone away. The family that took my trust fund is in financial trouble. Poetic, right? Rachel stood, gathering her empty coffee cup. Just remember, revenge might feel good for a moment, but it doesn't pay your bills or make you happy. Your success here? She gestured around my office. That's all you. Don't let them take credit for that, even as motivation. As she left, I looked at Hugh's message again. 6 months ago, I'd fled with nothing but determination and spite. Now I had everything I'd wanted: respect, success, independence. And soon I'd have something even better, the chance to say no when they needed my help. The call from Uncle Zach came on a rainy Tuesday evening, just as I was leaving the office. Caitlin? His voice sounded older, more strained than I remembered. Do you have a minute? I sat back down at my desk. I'm surprised you still have my number. Look, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. He cleared his throat. But we need your help. We? The family. Things haven't been good since you left. I laughed softly. And whose fault is that? Mine. The admission caught me off guard. I made a terrible mistake with your trust fund, and then I made an even worse one with our family business. I heard about that. I kept my voice neutral. Scarlett mentioned you're selling the house. We have to. The bank's foreclosing next month. A pause. Madeline and Tom moved back in. They couldn't afford their rent after everything. That must be awkward, I said, thinking of their lavish wedding. All those expensive wedding gifts crammed into your guest room. He ignored the jab. We need a loan, Caitlin, just enough to keep the house until I can sort things out. How much? 50,000. I nearly dropped my phone. That's less than what you took from me. I know, his voice cracked. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, but right now, we're desperate. Rachel appeared in my doorway, coat in hand. She mouthed, dinner, but I shook my head. Why me? I asked. Why not ask Mom? Solstice. He sighed. She's not in a position to help. None of us are. But Scarlett mentioned you got a good job in Seattle. Of course she did. I'll think about it. Please, Caitlin, we can set up a payment plan. I said I'll think about it. I hung up before he could respond. Rachel was still waiting. Everything okay? Remember when we talked about karma? I grabbed my coat. Let's get dinner. I need advice. Over Thai food, I told her about the call. She listened without interrupting, using her chopsticks to push rice around her plate. So, she said finally, what are you going to do? Part of me wants to tell them to figure it out themselves. I stabbed at my pad thai. Like I had to. And the other part? Wants to help, then hates myself for wanting to help. My phone buzzed. A text from Madeline. Uncle Zach told me he called you. I know I have no right to ask for anything, but please help us. I'm pregnant, Caitlin. I can't raise a baby in a motel. Wow, Rachel said, reading over my shoulder. They're really pulling out all the stops. You think she's lying? Does it matter? Either way, it's manipulation. I pushed my food away. What would you do? I'd invite them to visit. She held up a hand when I started to protest. Hear me out. Right now, they're imagining you in some entry-level job, barely getting by. They're asking for help because they don't know you don't need them anymore. Show them. You want me to rub my success in their faces? I want you to make an informed decision. See them face to face. Let them see what they lost when they betrayed you. She grinned. Plus your new place is gorgeous. The view alone might give Uncle Zach a heart attack. She had a point. My recent promotion had allowed me to move into a luxury apartment overlooking the city. The rent was more than my parents' mortgage. I picked up my phone and typed, "Come to Seattle this weekend, all of you. We'll talk about the loan in person." The responses came quickly. Mom, "Really? Oh, sweetheart, thank you." Uncle Zach, "We'll be there. Send the address." Madeline, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Only Hugh's response gave me pause. "Be gentle with them, cousin. They're not the same people who hurt you." I looked at Rachel. "Am I making a mistake?" "Depends on what you want out of this." She signalled for the check. Revenge, closure, reconciliation. I want them to understand what they did, what it cost them. I thought about my new office, my view, my success. I want them to see who I became without them. Then show them. She handed her card to the waiter. Just remember what I said about working for yourself, not against them. That night, I stood at my floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the Seattle skyline. 6 months ago, I'd arrived here broken and angry. Now I was about to face my family from a position of power. I opened my laptop and booked 4 hotel rooms at a modest chain hotel nearby. Not too cheap, not too expensive, just comfortable enough to make what came next feel worse by comparison. The game was about to begin, and this time I held all the cards. The doorman called up exactly at 7. "Miss Caitlin, your family is here." "Send them up." I smoothed my designer dress, 3 months' salary at my old job, pocket change now, and waited. The elevator dinged, and there they were. Mum looked thinner, worry lines creasing her forehead. Uncle Zach's confident swagger had vanished, replaced by stooped shoulders and a grey pallor. Madeline's expensive highlights had grown out, showing mousy brown roots. Hugh hung at the back, watching me carefully. "This is... wow." Mom stepped into my apartment, eyes wide. "Honey, this is incredible." "Nice view," Hugh said quietly. Madeline pressed her hand against the floor-to-ceiling windows. "You can see the whole city from here. Would anyone like a drink?" I moved to my wine fridge. "I have an excellent Cabernet, though water for you, Madeline, given your condition." She flushed, one hand moving to her still flat stomach. "You heard? You texted me, remember?" I poured the wine, watching their reflections in the window. 3 months along, is it? 2, she mumbled, accepting a water glass. I handed Uncle Zach his wine, noting how his hand trembled slightly. "Shall we sit? We have a lot to discuss." They settled onto my Italian leather sectional, another recent splurge. Mum kept touching things, as if confirming they were real. "You've done well for yourself," Uncle Zach said, attempting his old authoritative tone. "I have." I sat across from them. "No thanks to any of you." The silence that followed was deafening. "Caitlin," Mum started, "we know we hurt you." "Do you?" I set my wine down. "Do you know what it's like to start over with nothing? To eat ramen for weeks because you can't afford real food? To wonder if you've made the biggest mistake of your life? "We never meant," Madeline began, "to steal my trust fund, to destroy my dreams, to betray me." Each question made them flinch. "What exactly didn't you mean to do?" Hugh leaned forward. "We're here to make it right." "With what money?" I laughed. "The business is gone. The house is being foreclosed. Madeline's living in your old bedroom with a baby on the way. What exactly are you offering?" "Our apology," Mum whispered, "for everything." I stood and walked to the windows, looking out at my city. "Did you know I'm a senior project manager now, youngest in the company's history?" "That's wonderful," Mum said, hope creeping into her voice. "My salary is triple what that trust fund was worth." I turned to face them. "I did that without your help, without your support, without your belief in me." Uncle Zach set his untouched wine down. "We need $50,000, Caitlin. We can work out a payment plan." "Like you did with my trust fund?" The words came out sharp as knives. "How did that work out?" Madeline started crying softly. Mum moved to comfort her, but she shrugged away. "No, Mom, Caitlin's right." Madeline wiped her eyes. "We took everything from her, and now we're here asking for more." "Because you have nowhere else to go," I finished for her. Hugh stood up. "Look at them, Caitlin. Really look. Is this what you wanted? To see them broken?" "Sit down, Hugh." My voice was ice. "You don't get to play moral compass now. Where was your conscience when they took my money?" He sat. I walked to my home office and returned with a folder. "Inside is a contract. I'll loan you the $50,000. Hope bloomed on their faces. "But," I continued, "there are conditions. First, I want the loan repaid with interest. Second, I want a formal acknowledgement of what you did with my trust fund, notarized and legally binding. Third," I met each of their eyes, "I want you to understand that this doesn't make us even. This makes you indebted to me." Uncle Zach reached for the folder with shaking hands. "Whatever you want, we'll sign anything." "Dad," Hugh warned, but Zach waved him off. "No, she's right. We deserve this." I watched them read through the contract, heads bowed like penitents at confession. Mum's hands trembled as she signed. Madeline couldn't meet my eyes as she added her signature. Uncle Zach's scrawl was barely legible. Hugh read it last, his jaw tight. "This is brutal, Caitlin." "This is business." I collected the signed contracts. "I'll have my lawyer review these and transfer the money tomorrow. You can let yourselves out." "That's it?" Mum stood. "We came all this way for a contract signing?" I moved to the door and opened it. "You came all this way because you needed something from me. Now you have it. Good night." They filed out one by one. Hugh paused in the doorway. "Was it worth it, making them grovel?" I thought about Rachel's words about working for yourself versus against others. "Ask me tomorrow," I said, and closed the door. I couldn't sleep that night. At 3 a.m, I found myself at an all-night diner, stirring cream into mediocre coffee when Scarlett called. "They told me what happened," she said without preamble. "The contract, the conditions, all of it." And I don't recognize you anymore." Her voice cracked. The sister I knew wouldn't humiliate her family like this. The family I knew wouldn't steal my future. I watched the cream create patterns in my coffee. "How's the wedding planning going?" "Don't change the subject. Mum's devastated." "Mum's devastated?" I laughed bitterly. Where was her devastation when she signed away my trust fund? A waitress appeared with a slice of pie I hadn't ordered. "On the house, honey. You look like you need it." I waited until she left before continuing. "They came to me for money, Scarlett, not to make amends, not to rebuild our relationship, for money. Because they're desperate. Uncle Zach's business failing wasn't their fault." "No, but stealing my trust fund was." I pushed the pie around my plate. "You know what the worst part is? They still don't get it. Even now, they think this is about the money." "Isn't it?" "No." I set my fork down. "It's about trust, about family, about believing in me enough to let me follow my dreams instead of sacrificing them for Madeline's perfect wedding." Silence filled the line. I'm still waiting for you to answer about being my maid of honour, Scarlett said finally. Are you going to pay for my dress with my trust fund too? That's not fair. None of this is fair. Several heads turned at my outburst. I lowered my voice. You stood by and watched them take everything from me. You didn't say a word. I was scared, she whispered. I didn't want to choose sides. But you did choose. Your silence was a choice. The diner door chimed. Hugh walked in, spotted me and headed straight for my booth. I have to go, I told Scarlett. Your wedding will be beautiful, just like Madeline's was. I hung up as Hugh sat down. How did you find me? I asked. Followed you. I had a feeling you wouldn't be sleeping. He ordered coffee when the waitress came by. Want to talk about what happened up there? Not particularly. Tough. He doctored his coffee with sugar. Because we're going to. There's nothing to discuss. They needed money. I gave them conditions. They agreed. You didn't give them conditions, Caitlin. You gave them a public flogging. I pushed my plate away. They deserved it. Maybe. He leaned back. But is this really who you want to be? The person who kicks people when they're down? Like they kicked me? Yes, exactly like that. His eyes met mine. You're becoming what hurt you, and you're too smart not to see it. The waitress refilled our coffees without asking. Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten. Did you know, Hugh continued, that Madeline tried to cancel the wedding when she found out about the trust fund? Mum and Dad talked her out of it, said it was too late, deposits were paid, it would shame the family. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand something. What they did to you was wrong. Unforgivable even, but this revenge you're pursuing, it's not hurting them as much as it's hurting you. I thought about my beautiful apartment, empty except for expensive furniture, about my impressive job title that I couldn't share with my family, about the satisfaction I'd felt watching them squirm and how hollow it felt now. I worked so hard, I said quietly. Everything I have, I earned myself. I know. Hugh reached across the table and squeezed my hand. And that's amazing. But you did it for the wrong reasons. You did it to prove them wrong instead of proving yourself right. What's the difference? Look at yourself. Really look. Are you happy, Caitlin, or are you just successful? The question hit harder than I expected. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Madeline. I know you hate me, but this baby... I want them to know their aunt, to know the strong, amazing person you are, not the angry one we saw tonight. Please don't let what we did destroy who you really are. Hugh watched me read it. She means it, you know. It's not that simple. It never is. He stood and dropped money on the table for our coffee. But at some point you have to decide, do you want to keep punishing them, or do you want to start healing? He left me sitting there, watching the sunrise through the diner's grimy windows, wondering when revenge had started feeling less like victory and more like chains. I found my family in the hotel lobby the next morning. They looked up as I approached, faces a mix of hope and apprehension. We need to talk, I said, dropping into an armchair across from them, about last night, about everything. Mum straightened. The contract. Forget the contract. I pulled it from my bag and tore it in half. This isn't about money anymore. Madeline's hand went to her stomach, a gesture I was starting to recognise. What is it about then? Truth. I looked at each of them. I want you to tell me why, not excuses, not justifications, why you really did it. Uncle Zach spoke first. I was desperate. The business was failing, and Madeline's wedding. I convinced myself it was temporary, that I'd pay it back before you ever knew. But you didn't. No. He looked down, and when you found out, I was too ashamed to face it. Mum? She twisted her wedding ring, a nervous habit I remembered from childhood. I thought I was protecting the family, keeping peace. I told myself you were young, that you'd have other opportunities. Her voice cracked. I was wrong, so terribly wrong. Madeline? My cousin wiped tears from her cheeks. I was selfish. When Dad said he'd handle the costs, I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to know. And then when I found out... She met my eyes. I should have cancelled everything. Instead, I let them convince me it was too late. It's never too late to do the right thing, I said quietly. Hugh, who'd been silent until now, leaned forward. Your turn, Caitlin. Tell them the truth about Seattle. They all looked at me expectantly. When I left, I was broken. The words came slowly, not because of the money, but because my family, the people I trusted most, didn't believe in me enough to let me follow my dreams. That's not true, Mum protested, isn't it? You took my trust fund because you didn't think my business would succeed, because Madeline's wedding was more important than my future. No one spoke. So I came here angry, determined to prove you wrong, and I did. I gestured around us. I built everything you saw last night from nothing, but you know what? It feels empty. Because you did it for revenge, Hugh said softly. Because I did it for revenge, I agreed. And now I have everything I thought I wanted, except the one thing that mattered most. What's that? Madeline asked. Family. The word hung in the air. Real family, the kind that believes in each other, supports each other, doesn't betray each other. Uncle Zack stood abruptly. I'll sell my car. It's not much, but it's a start. Sit down. I waited until he did. I'm not finished. Mum reached for my hand, but I pulled back. What you did was wrong. Not just taking the money, but the way you did it. The lies, the justifications, the silence. I took a deep breath. But what I did last night, making you grovel, humiliating you, that was wrong too. You had every right, Madeline said. No, I had reasons but not rights. There's a difference. Hugh smiled slightly. So what now? I pulled out my checkbook. Now, I'm going to help you save the house. No contracts, no conditions. We can't accept, Uncle Zack started. You can and you will. I wrote the check. Because that's what family does, but this time we do it right, with honesty, with respect, and with trust that needs to be rebuilt on both sides. Madeline burst into tears. Mum wasn't far behind. There are conditions, I added, holding the check just out of reach. Not legal ones, but important ones. They waited. First, we start therapy, family counselling, all of us. I looked at their surprised faces. Second, we talk about things. No more secrets, no more assumptions about what's best for everyone. And third, I turned to Madeline. I want to be part of my niece or nephew's life, really part of it. She launched herself at me, hugging me awkwardly around her barely there bump. Done, all of it, done. Mum joined the hug, then Uncle Zack. Hugh stood back, watching with satisfaction. One more thing, I said when they finally let go. I turned to Scarlett, who'd been quietly watching from the hotel entrance. Yes. Yes? She stepped closer. Yes, I'll be your maid of honour, but I'm picking my own dress this time. She laughed through tears and joined our group hug. As we stood there, holding each other in that hotel lobby, I realised something. Revenge might feel good for a moment, but reconciliation, real, honest, hard-won reconciliation that feels good forever. So, Madeline sniffled, want to help me pick out baby names? For the first time in 6 months, my laugh was genuine. As long as you promise not to steal them. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I reviewed the final payment notification from Uncle Zack. He'd insisted on repaying the loan, even though I'd told him it wasn't necessary. Small monthly transfers, never missing one, each with a note of gratitude attached. My phone buzzed with Madeline's latest ultrasound picture. It's a girl, the message read. Still voting for Caitlin as a name? Absolutely not, I texted back. One Caitlin in the family is enough. Rachel appeared in my doorway with coffee. Ready for the big presentation? Born ready, I gathered my materials. But first I need your opinion on something. I pulled up a business plan on my screen, the same one I'd dreamed of funding with my trust fund, but better. Refined by experience, shaped by everything I'd learned. A consulting firm? Rachel leaned closer. Wait, is this? The original dream, version 2.0. I scrolled through the projections. But this time, I'm doing it right, building it alongside my job here, not rushing in blind. Have you shown your family? Family therapy session tonight. I closed the laptop. Thought I'd bring it up then. The session was held in a warm office with comfortable chairs arranged in a circle. Dr. Martinez had been working with us for 3 months, helping us navigate the rebuilding of trust. "Caitlin," she said as we settled in, "you wanted to share something today?" I opened my laptop. "Remember my original business plan? The reason for the trust fund?" Mum tensed visibly. Uncle Zach looked at the floor. "I'm starting it." I turned the screen so they could see. "Not asking for money or support, just telling you, because that's what we do now. We share our dreams." "It's amazing," Scarlett said, scanning the numbers. "But can you manage this in your current job?" "That's the beauty of it. I'm not rushing this time, building slowly, learning from my mistakes and others." I looked at Uncle Zach. "Actually, I could use your advice about what not to do." He looked up, surprised. "You trust my business advice after everything?" "You failed. That doesn't erase 30 years of experience." I smiled slightly. "Plus, who better to help me avoid pitfalls than someone who's fallen into them?" Madeline shifted in her chair, one hand on her growing belly. "I want to help too. My marketing degree might be useful." "We could make it a family business," Mum suggested, then quickly added, "Only if you want, of course, no pressure." "Actually," I took a deep breath. "That's kind of what I was hoping for." Dr. Martinez leaned forward. "This is a significant step, Caitlin. Are you sure you're ready to mix family and business again?" "No." I closed my laptop. "But I'm ready to try. With boundaries this time. With contracts that protect everyone. With honest conversations when things get hard." "And with a kick-ass business plan," Hugh added, grinning. After the session, we gathered at my apartment. Mum brought dinner, her famous lasagna that I'd missed more than I'd admitted. As we ate, the conversation flowed naturally between wedding plans, baby names, and business strategies. "I have something for you," Uncle Zach said, pulling out an envelope. "The final loan payment plus interest." I pushed it back. "Keep it. Invest it in the new business instead." "Caitlin, I mean it." I looked around the table. What happened with the trust fund? It broke us, but it also made us stronger, made me stronger. I needed to prove myself, and I did. Now I need to prove I can trust again. Madeline raised her water glass. "To new beginnings?" "To family," I corrected, raising mine. "The kind that learns from mistakes instead of hiding from them." Later, as they were leaving, Mum lingered behind. "I'm proud of you," she said. "Not for the success or the money. For this." She gestured around. "For finding a way back to us. Even though I made it as difficult as possible. Especially then." She hugged me. "Because you did it your way, on your terms. That's the daughter I raised." After they left, I stood at my windows, looking out at the city that had given me refuge when I needed it most. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "How'd it go?" I typed back, "Better than revenge." On my desk, the business plan waited. But now it wasn't just my dream anymore. It was a bridge, connecting who I'd been with who I'd become, connecting my family's past mistakes with our future possibilities. The sun set over Seattle, painting the sky in colours of hope. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's finding the strength to build something new from the ashes of what was broken. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you build something better than you ever imagined possible.
The letter trembled in my hands as I stood in my kitchen, surrounded by the organized chaos of prep work for tomorrow's wedding reception. Yellowed and creased, it was written in my brother's messy teenage scrawl. "I promise I'll help pay for culinary school when I make it big, sis. You're the best cook ever." I'm Jade, and that promise died 15 years ago, just like most of Brent's promises do. The irony of finding this letter today, of all days, wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed again, the 8th time in the last hour. I knew it was Brent without looking. Finally, I answered. Where have you been? I've been calling forever. His voice boomed through the speaker. Working, Brent. You know, that thing people do to earn money? I balanced the phone between my ear and shoulder while piping delicate rosettes onto a trial cake. Perfect timing then. I need you to cater my housewarming party next weekend. Nothing fancy, just your usual spread. Maybe those mini crab cakes everyone loves? I stopped piping. Next weekend? Brent, I'm booked solid through the next month. Come on, Jade. It's family. You can move some things around. This is important. I've got potential investors coming. You know how crucial first impressions are. The rosette I was working on collapsed under excessive pressure from my hands. My business isn't just a hobby I can move around. These are paid contracts. But family comes first, right? Mom always says that. I laughed bitterly. Funny how family only comes first when you need something from me. Don't be dramatic. Remember when I helped you move last year? You mean when you showed up 3 hours late, moved 2 boxes, and left early for a golf game? That's not fair. I had commitments. He paused. Look, this is really important. I'll pay you, well, cover the ingredients at least. Family discount, right? My kitchen timer buzzed, saving me from responding immediately. I pulled out a tray of test appetizers I'd been working on for next week's wedding. The same wedding I'd have to reschedule if I agreed to Brent's demands. How many people? I heard myself ask, hating that I was even considering it. Just 50 or 60, maybe 70 tops. Nothing you can't handle. I closed my eyes, calculating the cost, the time, the staff I'd need. Brent, that's a $3,000 event minimum. Jade, come on, you're family. I just bought this house. I'm stretched thin as it is. So am I. Do you have any idea what my overhead costs are? The staff I need to pay? You're being selfish. Mom will be so disappointed. There it was. The guilt card. I glanced at the old letter again, still lying on my counter. Something inside me snapped. Fine, I said flatly. Next Saturday, send me the details. You're the best, sis. I knew I could count on you. Mom was right. You'll never let family down. After hanging up, I stared at my phone until a text from Kent, my boyfriend, lit up the screen. Still on for dinner? 20 minutes later, I was sliding into a booth across from Kent at our favorite diner. His smile faded as he saw my face. Brent again? I nodded, picking at my napkin. I just found an old letter where he promised to help pay for culinary school. Remember how that turned out? You mean when he bought that luxury car instead? The very one. Now he wants me to cater his housewarming party. 60 people. For free. Kent reached across the table, taking my hand. And you said? What I always say, yes. I pulled my hand back, grabbing my phone as it buzzed with Brent's detailed demands. Jade. I know, but you don't understand the guilt trips, the family pressure. Mom always takes his side. Maybe it's time they learned what it's like without you always saving the day. I looked up from the increasingly demanding text messages. What do you mean? You've got that vacation time saved up. We could go somewhere. Next weekend, maybe? Kent, I couldn't possibly. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Brent. Actually, might be closer to 80 people. No big deal for you though, right? Family first. I stared at the message, then at Kent's concerned face, then back at my phone. The old letter flashed in my mind, along with years of broken promises and taken-for-granted favors. You know what? I said slowly, a plan forming in my mind. Maybe it's time for a beach vacation. Kent's eyes widened as he caught my meaning. Are you serious? I picked up my phone, pulled up a travel app, and started browsing flights. Family first, right? Maybe it's time I put myself first for a change. You did what? Vada nearly spat out her coffee across my kitchen counter. 3 days had passed since I'd booked the beach vacation, and I'd finally worked up the courage to tell someone. Booked a non-refundable trip to Cancun for next weekend. I continued prepping for today's corporate lunch delivery, trying to sound more confident than I felt. The same weekend as Brent's party? She leaned forward,
eyes sparkling. "Girl, I've been waiting 15 years for you to stand up to him." I haven't exactly told him yet. I focused on chopping herbs, avoiding her gaze. Or anyone in the family. "Oh, this is delicious. Better than these amazing appetizers you're making." She popped another sample into her mouth. "So, what's the plan?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. Mom's face lit up the screen. Speaking of family, I showed Vada the phone. She made a go-on gesture. "Hi, Mom." "Jade, honey, I need you to add 10 more people to Brent's party list. Some important clients of his." I put down my knife. "Did Brent ask you to call me?" "Well, yes, but why couldn't he call himself?" "He said you weren't answering his texts. Don't be difficult, Jade. This is a big opportunity for him." I caught Vada rolling her eyes dramatically. "Mom, every opportunity is big for Brent. Remember my restaurant opening last year? The one he skipped for a pickup basketball game? That was different. He had commitments. And I don't? My business isn't just a hobby, Mom. Nobody's saying it is, but family comes first," I finished. "Yeah, I know." After hanging up, I gripped the counter until my knuckles turned white. Vada slid over and wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "You know what the worst part is?" I said. "Last month, Brent convinced Dad to invest in some sketchy crypto scheme instead of my catering expansion plan. Didn't even let me make my pitch." "Time to rip off the Band-Aid," Vada said. "Show them what life's like without their reliable Jade." My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia, my niece. "Mom says you're being difficult about Uncle Brent's party, but I get it. He can be a real dick sometimes." I smiled, showing Vada the message. At least someone in the family sees it. Speaking of seeing things, Vada pulled up a real estate website on her phone. "Look what I found, your brother's new house listing." I stared at the screen. 1.2 million? He said he was stretched thin. "Oh, but family discount, right?" Vada mimicked Brent's voice perfectly. Just then, Kent walked in with travel documents in hand. "Got our resort confirmation." His smile faded seeing my expression. "Having second thoughts?" "No," I said firmly, surprising myself. "Actually, I'm getting more convinced by the minute." "Good," he said, laying out the papers. "Because I also booked us sunset sailing and a couple's massage." Vada clapped her hands. "Now that's what I call family first." My phone buzzed again. "Brent." I hit ignore. "You'll have to tell them eventually," Kent said gently. "I will, just not yet." I returned to my prep work. Let him sweat a little. "Jade Parker, you've got an evil streak." Vada grinned. "I love it." The rest of the week passed in a blur of ignored calls and vague responses to family messages. I focused on wrapping up my other catering commitments and preparing my staff for my absence. Friday evening, the night before the party, my dad called. "Princess, your mother's worried. Brent says he can't reach you about tomorrow's menu." "Dad." I took a deep breath. "Remember when I was 12 and Brent promised to come to my dance recital? That was a long time ago. He went to a movie instead, and you all said it was fine because the movie was important to his social life." I paused. When did my thing stop being important? Silence on the line. "I have to go, Dad. My flight's early tomorrow." "Flight? What flight?" "Give Mom and Brent my love." I hung up, hands shaking. Kent found me sitting on our packed suitcase, staring at my phone. "Having a crisis?" he asked. "No," I said, standing up. "For the first time in forever, I'm having clarity." My phone lit up with a final text from Sophia. "Whatever you are planning, I'm here for it. Give 'em hell, Aunt Jade." I turned to Kent. "You know what? I think it's time to put my phone on airplane mode. For the whole week." "That's my girl," he said, pulling me close. "Ready to put yourself first?" I looked around at our packed bags, the travel documents, and finally at my silent phone. "More than ready. Let's see how family first works without the family doormat." The next morning, as our plane took off, I imagined Brent waking up to his perfect party day. He had no idea what was coming, and for once, I didn't feel guilty at all. The morning sun streamed through the airplane window as we reached cruising altitude. Kent squeezed my hand as I stared at my phone one last time before switching it off. "Last chance to back out," he said softly. I showed him my screen. 37 missed calls and counting. No turning back now. The flight attendant stopped at our row. "Mimosa." "God, yes," I said, accepting the glass. "Make it a double." As I sipped my drink, my mind wandered to what must be happening back home. It was 8 a.m. Brent would be waking up to his perfect party day, probably expecting his reliable sister to have everything under control. My phone buzzed one final time before I turned it off. A voicemail from Mom. "Jade, honey, where are you? Brent says he can't reach you about the setup time. Call me back immediately." Kent took my phone gently from my hands and slipped it into airplane mode. Time to relax. 3 hours later, we stepped into the warm Mexican air. Palm trees swayed in the breeze, and the ocean sparkled in the distance. As we waited for our luggage, I spotted a familiar face in the crowd. "Vada?" I gasped. "What are you doing here?" She emerged from behind a column, grinning. "You think I'd miss this? Kent arranged it all." I turned to Kent, who shrugged innocently. "You needed backup. Plus," Vada added, "someone needs to document the nuclear fallout back home. I've got Sophia on reconnaissance duty." My stomach tightened. "What's happening?" Vada pulled out her phone, showing me a text from Sophia. "OMG Aunt Jade, Uncle Brent just realized there's no food coming. He's turning purple." "It's barely noon," I said. "The party's not for hours." "Oh, honey." Vada scrolled through more messages. "He's been calling catering services all morning. Apparently someone warned them all about taking last-minute bookings today." I raised an eyebrow at Kent, who suddenly became very interested in the luggage carousel. "You didn't—" "I might have made a few calls," he admitted. "Mentioned to some industry friends that accepting a rushed booking today could damage their relationship with your catering company." "Kent!" "What? You're one of the biggest names in the business. People listen when your company makes requests." Our resort shuttle arrived, and as we drove along the coast, Vada's phone kept buzzing with updates. "Sophia says Brent's now trying to convince your mom to cook everything herself." Vada laughed. "Your mom, the woman who burned water." "He's desperate," Kent said. "It's almost time for his precious investors to arrive." I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt lighter with each mile between me and home. The resort appeared ahead, a paradise of white beaches and swaying palms. As we checked in, Vada's phone chimed again. "Oh, this is good," she said. "Your mom finally tried calling your business line. And? Your voicemail message played. You've reached Jade's Catering. We are currently on a scheduled vacation. For emergencies, please contact our partner services." "Partner services who've all been warned off," Kent finished. The hotel manager handed us our room keys. "Welcome to paradise. Would you like to book any excursions?" "Actually," I said, "how about that sunset sailing trip right now?" "But we just got here," Kent started. "Perfect timing." The manager checked his tablet. "The boat leaves in 30 minutes. As we hurried to our rooms to change, Vada's phone buzzed continuously. "Brent's calling every restaurant in town," she reported. "They're all booked solid. Saturday, remember?" In our room, I slipped into my swimsuit, trying not to think about the chaos unfolding back home. Kent wrapped his arms around me from behind. "Having regrets?" I turned to face him. "You know what? No. For the first time in my life, I'm not dropping everything to fix Brent's problems." "Good." He kissed my forehead. "Because there's a catamaran with our name on it." As we headed to the dock, Vada showed me one last message from Sophia. "Mom's freaking out. Grandma's crying. Uncle Brent just threw his phone across the room. Best day ever." The captain greeted us with fresh margaritas. As we pulled away from the dock, I raised my glass. "To family first," I said. To family first, Kent and Vada echoed, clinking their glasses with mine. The shore grew distant behind us, and with it, all the expectations and obligations I'd carried for years. Somewhere back home, my brother was learning a hard lesson about taking people for granted. But here, with the wind in my hair and the sun on my face, I was finally, wonderfully free. You know, Vada said, scrolling through her phone one last time before putting it away, I think this might be the best catering job you've never done. For the first time in days, I laughed without restraint. She was right. This was exactly where I needed to be. Back at Brent's new house, chaos was unfolding. I didn't witness it firsthand, of course, but Sophia's steady stream of texts to Vada painted the picture perfectly. As we lounged by the resort pool the next morning, Vada read them aloud like breaking news bulletins. Update from 4 hours ago, Vada announced, adjusting her sunglasses. Uncle Brent's trying to pass off grocery store cheese platters as artisanal selections. Even the Walmart staff looked embarrassed for him. Kent snorted into his piña colada. What time did the party start? 3 p.m., I said, checking my watch. So right about now, Vada's phone buzzed again. Oh my God, listen to this. First guests arriving. Uncle Brent told them the caterer had a family emergency. Everyone's asking if it's you. He's sweating through his designer shirt. Family emergency, I repeated. Well, he's not wrong. Wait, there's more. Vada sat up straight. Grandma's stress cooking in the kitchen. She found a Pinterest recipe for fancy appetizers. The smoke alarm's already gone off twice. Kent ordered another round of drinks. Should we feel bad? Ask me again after I hear about the investors' reactions, I said, but my stomach did a small flip. The next message came minutes later. The investors just arrived. Uncle Brent's trying to explain why there's only Costco cookies and burnt mini quiches. One guy just asked if this was some kind of joke. I closed my eyes, letting the sun warm my face. The guilt was trying to creep in, but I pushed it back. Remember your restaurant opening? Kent said, reading my expression. When Brent promised to bring those restaurant critics he knew? And then ghosted me because his fantasy football team made the playoffs? I nodded. Yeah, I remember. OMG, Vada read. Mom just found Aunt Jade's vacation post on Instagram. Uncle Brent's face went from red to purple to white. Pretty sure he stopped breathing for a second. I sat up. What post? I haven't posted anything. Kent raised his hand slowly. That might have been me. Just a subtle shot of our sunset sail yesterday. Tagged you in it. You're evil, I laughed. I love it. The updates kept coming as we moved from the pool to the beach bar. The investors left after 30 minutes. One of them actually laughed out loud. Dad's stress-eating all the backup chips. Mom's crying in the bathroom. Uncle Brent just announced that the real food is on its way. Pretty sure he's delirious. Then came the video. Sophia had managed to capture Brent's meltdown in the kitchen, his voice carrying clearly through the house. Where the hell is she? She's ruined everything. Everything. Does she know how much I have riding on this? Mom's voice in the background. I'm sure there's been some mistake. Jade would never... Never what? Stand up to precious Brent? That was Sophia, off camera. Maybe she's tired of being taken for granted. Stay out of this, Brent snapped. This is all her fault. She promised. Family comes first. Like when you promised to help with her culinary school? Sophia shot back. Or when you convinced Grandpa not to invest in her business. Silence fell in the kitchen. The video ended. Your niece, Vada said, is my new hero. My phone lay dark and silent on the table, still in airplane mode. Part of me wanted to turn it on, to deal with the fallout. The other part ordered another margarita. They'll get over it, Kent said, reading my mind. Or they won't. Either way, you've made your point. Vada's phone chimed with the final update of the day. Party's over. Most guests left within an hour. Uncle Brent's locked himself in his study. But get this, 3 different people asked me for Aunt Jade's business card. Said anyone who could make Brent this crazy must be worth hiring. I couldn't help but laugh. So I'm getting bookings out of this? Karma, Vada said, raising her glass. Sweet, delicious karma. As the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, I thought about Brent's perfect party in ruins. The guilt was there, yes, but so was something else. Relief. Pride, even. You know what the funny thing is, I said, watching the waves roll in? He probably still doesn't get it. He's probably sitting there thinking I did this to hurt him, not that this is the consequence of how he's treated me for years. Want to really blow his mind? Vada grinned, holding up her phone. Sophia says she found that old letter, the one about culinary school. She's thinking of showing it to your parents. I considered it for a moment, then shook my head. Let's save that bomb for when we get back. Right now, I just want to enjoy this moment. 2 moments, Kent raised his glass. 2 consequences, Vada added. To finally putting myself first, I finished, clinking my glass with theirs as the last rays of sun disappeared beneath the horizon. 2 days into our vacation, the story exploded online. I was sipping a morning coffee on our balcony when Vada burst into our room, her phone thrust forward like breaking news evidence. You've gone viral, she announced. Sophia posted about the party on TikTok. Kent appeared from the bathroom, toweling his hair. What? I grabbed her phone. The video started with a pan across Brent's empty food tables, set with elegant platters containing sad-looking supermarket snacks. Sophia's voice narrated, "When you're a rich, entitled uncle who expects your successful caterer sister to work for free and finds out she's done being the family doormat. Justice for Aunt Jade." Oh God, I groaned. How many views? 2 million and climbing, Vada said. The comments are gold. She wasn't wrong. People were sharing their own stories of entitled siblings, tagging it, "Justice for Aunt Jade." Someone had even found my catering company's social media and started leaving 5-star reviews praising my backbone installation services. My phone, which I'd briefly turned on to check work emails, started buzzing with notifications. I quickly switched it back to airplane mode. That's not even the best part, Vada continued, scrolling. Remember those investors? Turns out one of them is a major food critic. He posted about the disaster on his blog. She read aloud. In 15 years of reviewing events, I've never seen such a blatant display of entitled nepotism backfiring. Note to future hosts. Professional caterers are professionals for a reason. They deserve respect, compensation, and apparently, beach vacations. Kent whistled. Well, that's going to leave a mark. A knock at our door revealed the hotel manager. Ms. Jade, there's a situation requiring your attention. My heart sank. My family? No, ma'am. Your business Instagram account has gained 50,000 followers overnight. Our social media team thought you should know. Several major magazines are requesting interviews. I sat down hard on the bed. Interviews? Yes, about standing up to toxic family dynamics in business. They're calling you an inspiration. Vada squealed. Girl, you're a movement. The manager handed me a tablet showing my company's social media. The comments section was flooded. Finally, someone showing that family first goes both ways. Booking this queen for my wedding ASAP. Can you cater my divorce party? I'll pay triple. This is insane, I muttered. Another notification popped up. A message from Mom. Despite my better judgment, I opened it. Your father's disappointed. Brent's reputation is ruined. Please come home and fix this. Before I could respond, Sophia sent a new video to Vada. This one showed Brent pacing in his study, yelling into his phone. What do you mean you're pulling out of the deal? It was just a catering issue. No, I can explain. Hello? Hello? The camera panned to show my mother standing in the doorway, finally looking uncertain. Maybe, she said quietly, we should talk about how we've been treating Jade. Not now, Mom, Brent snapped. I'm losing everything because of her little tantrum. Exactly. My mother's voice grew stronger. You're losing everything because you took her for granted. Because we all did. The video ended there. I looked up to find Kent and Vada watching me carefully. You okay? Kent asked. I don't know, I admitted. This wasn't supposed to get so big. But it needed to, Vada said firmly. Look at your mom finally getting it. Sometimes it takes a public wake-up call. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. Princess, we need to talk. About that letter. About everything. The hotel manager cleared his throat. Should I tell the magazines you're unavailable? I thought about years of swallowed resentment, of canceled plans and broken promises, of being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who always gave in. Then I thought about my mother's words in that video. No, I said. Tell them I'll do the interviews, but not until next week, when I'm back home. And your family? Kent asked. They can wait too. I'm done dropping everything for emergencies that aren't really emergencies. Vada's phone chimed with one final update from Sophia. Grandma found the letter. She's crying again, but different this time. Thinks she finally sees what's been happening. P.S. Got 3 more bookings for you. You're welcome. I walked to the balcony, looking out at the perfect beach day ahead. Behind me, I could hear Vada reading more viral comments, Kent ordering breakfast, the world shifting in unexpected ways. You know what? I turned back to them. Let's go snorkeling. The family drama will still be there tomorrow. And you'll be ready for it, Kent said. Yeah, I smiled, feeling stronger than I had in years. I really will be. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about one catering job or one entitled brother. This was about setting boundaries, demanding respect, and finally, putting myself first. And apparently, 2 million people agreed with me. They want to video call, I announced, staring at my mother's text message. We were on our last full day in Mexico, lounging at the private beach cabana I'd splurged on with my suddenly booming catering deposits. Vada lowered her magazine. Are you ready for that? No, I admitted, but I don't think I'll ever be. Kent squeezed my hand. We're right here. I took a deep breath and hit accept on the call. My parents' faces filled the screen, with Brent lurking in the background of what looked like their living room. Jade? Mom started, then stopped, taking in my beachy surroundings. You look relaxed. Amazing what happens when you take a real vacation instead of catering other people's parties. Brent stepped forward. Is this a joke to you? Do you have any idea what you've done? Brent, Dad warned, but I was already sitting up straighter. What I've done? Let's talk about what you've done. Sophia, show them. The camera panned to reveal Sophia sitting quietly in the corner. She pulled out the old letter and began reading. Dear Jade, I promise when I make it big. That's not fair, Brent interrupted. I was a kid. You were 18, I shot back. I was 15, and you knew exactly what you were promising. I couldn't afford. You bought a Porsche instead, and now you have $1 million house but you can't pay your sister's catering rates? Mom's face crumpled. We didn't know about the letter. There's a lot you didn't know, Mom, or chose not to see. That's why we're calling, Dad said quietly. We need to talk, really talk. I glanced at Kent and Vada, who both nodded encouragingly. Okay, I said, let's talk. First, Mom began, we saw the media coverage. Your father and I, we had no idea how much pressure we put on you. While giving Brent a free pass on everything, Sophia added from her corner. Sophia, Brent snapped. No, she's right, Dad cut in. We've been unfair. And reading those comments online, seeing how many people related to your situation, it opened our eyes. My investors pulled out, Brent said flatly. My reputation's ruined. Your reputation? I laughed. My reputation was on the line every time you demanded free catering. One bad event could have tanked my business. Did you ever think about that? Silence fell. Even Brent looked taken aback. "The thing is," I continued, surprising myself with how steady my voice was, "I'm actually grateful this happened. My business has tripled in bookings. People respect someone who stands up for themselves." "We respect you," Mom said softly. "We should have said it sooner." "Actions, Mom, not words." Dad cleared his throat. "That's why I've reconsidered your business expansion proposal. If you're still interested—" "I'm not," I said firmly. "I've had other investors reach out, people who believe in me without needing a viral video to prove my worth." More silence. Brent sat down heavily. "So that's it?" he asked. "You're just done with family?" "No," I said. "I'm done with being taken advantage of by family. There's a difference." "We want to make this right," Mom pleaded. "Tell us how." I looked at Kent, who gave me an encouraging nod. "First, Brent apologizes. Not just for the party, but for years of broken promises and manipulation. Second, we establish boundaries. My business is my business. I'll offer family discounts when I choose to, not when they're demanded." Mom nodded eagerly. "Of course, honey." "And third," I paused, "we start fresh. Equal footing. No more golden child, no more reliable doormat, just family, supporting each other equally." "I can't believe you're making demands after what you did to me," Brent started, but Dad cut him off. "Enough. Your sister is right, and you know it." Brent's face reddened, but he stayed quiet. "So," I said, "those are my terms. Take them or leave them." Mom wiped her eyes. "We take them, right, Brent?" All eyes turned to my brother. He looked around the room, then at the letter still in Sophia's hands, and finally at me on the screen. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I really am, for everything." "It's a start," I replied. "When do you come home?" Dad asked. "Tomorrow, but I have interviews scheduled all week." "Interviews?" "Good Morning America wants to talk about toxic family dynamics in small businesses," Vada chimed in cheerfully. "She's going to be famous." Brent winced. Mom looked worried. "But Dad—" Dad actually smiled. "That's my girl," he said, standing up for herself at last. As the call ended, I fell back against my beach chair, emotionally drained but lighter somehow. "Well," Kent said, "that went better than expected." "Think it'll last?" I asked. Vada snorted. "With 2 million people watching, it better." I looked out at the ocean, at my last sunset in paradise. Tomorrow I'd head home to face whatever came next. But for the first time in my life, I'd be facing it on my own terms. "One more margarita?" Kent suggested. "Make it a double," I smiled. "We're celebrating boundaries." The morning show lights were blinding as I sat across from the host, trying not to fidget with my microphone. My first national TV interview, and my family was watching. "So Jade," the host began, "your story has resonated with millions. Tell us what made you finally take that stand." Before I could answer, a commotion erupted off stage. My brother's voice carried clearly. "I need to speak to my sister." The host's eyes widened. Security moved to intercept Brent, but I held up my hand. "It's okay. Let him through." Brent stormed onto the set, his tie askew, looking like he hadn't slept. The cameras swiveled to capture every moment. "You can't do this interview," he said. "You can't tell everyone our family business." "Sir," the host started, but I cut her off. "Why not, Brent? Scared people will learn the truth?" "What truth? That you abandoned your family? That you manipulated me for years?" I stood up. "That you convinced Dad not to invest in my business by lying about your crypto scheme?" The studio fell silent. Even the cameramen seemed to hold their breath. "I didn't." Brent's face paled. "How did you—" "Sophia found the emails," I said quietly. "The ones where you told Dad my business was failing, that I was too emotional to handle an investment. All while you were pushing your crypto scam." "It wasn't a scam," he protested, but his voice cracked. Really? Because Dad lost $60,000. Money that could have helped expand my catering business. Money that could have helped our family actually grow instead of just feeding your ego. The host leaned forward. This is an unexpected turn. Sir, would you like to respond to these allegations? Brent looked at the cameras as if seeing them for the first time. His carefully crafted image was crumbling on national television. I was trying to protect Dad's investment, he stammered. Your business was small, and I had a better plan, I finished. Like all your better plans? Like promising to help with culinary school, then buying a luxury car instead? That was 15 years ago. And you've been making promises and breaking them ever since. The only difference now is that people are finally seeing it. Movement in the wings caught my eye. Mom and Dad had arrived with Sophia beside them. Dad's face was ashen as he held up his phone, presumably showing those damning emails. Is this true? He asked Brent. Did you really say these things about your sister's business? Brent's shoulders sagged. Dad, I can explain. Explain what? Mom stepped forward. How you sabotaged your sister. How you've been playing us against each other for years. The host was practically vibrating with excitement. Ladies and gentlemen, we're witnessing an unprecedented family confrontation live on air. Turn off the cameras, I said suddenly. But, please, this isn't about ratings anymore. To my surprise, they complied. The red lights blinked off, and the studio audience was ushered out. In the sudden quiet, Brent seemed to deflate. I didn't mean for it to go this far. None of us did, Mom said. But here we are. Why? I asked him. Why sabotage me? I would have helped you anyway. I always did. Because, he whispered, you were succeeding on your own. No help, no shortcuts, just hard work and talent, and I couldn't handle it, Sophia finished. Because Aunt Jade made it honestly while you were cutting corners and manipulating people. Dad stepped forward, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I trusted you, son. With my money, with your sister's future. I'll pay it back, Brent said quickly. The crypto market will recover. Stop, I cut him off. Just stop. For once in your life, own what you did. Silence fell again. The studio lights hummed overhead. Finally, Brent spoke, his voice small. I was jealous. Of your success, your independence. Everything came so hard for me, but you made it look easy. Easy? I laughed bitterly. I worked 18-hour days. I built my business client by client while catering your free events. Nothing about it was easy. I know that now, he said. I know a lot of things now. Mom stepped between us. So what happens next? I looked at my family, really looked at them. Mom's hopeful face, Dad's disappointed one, Sophia's proud smile, and Brent's broken facade. Next, I said, we rebuild. But differently this time. With truth, respect, and actual support, not manipulation disguised as family loyalty. And the interview? The host asked from the sidelines. I smiled. I think we just gave you something better than the original story. How about we tell the truth, all of it, about family, forgiveness, and finally facing the real issues? Brent looked up. All of it? All of it, I confirmed. It's time to stop pretending. The cameras rolled again, but this time we told the real story, not just of one catering disaster, but of a family finally confronting years of hidden truths. The autumn breeze carried the scent of my newest creation, rosemary and fig tartlets, through the open windows of my expanded kitchen. My newly hired sous chef was plating appetizers while I reviewed the final details for tonight's event. The doorbell rang. I knew who it was before opening it. I brought wine, Brent said, holding up a bottle. Not the expensive show-off kind he used to bring, but a modest local vintage I actually liked. Come in. I'm just finishing up. He followed me to the kitchen, taking in the new equipment and expanded workspace that Dad's recovered investment had helped fund. Big event tonight? he asked, watching the staff work. Just a small family gathering. I smiled. About 60 people. Ah. He fidgeted with the wine bottle. Listen, I can pay. It's on the house, I said, because I want to, not because you expect it. He nodded, understanding the difference now. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophia. Got the table set up at Uncle Brent's. The irony of having your housewarming redo at his place is chef's kiss. Nervous? I asked him. Terrified, he admitted. First time hosting since, you know. The disaster that launched 1,000 TikToks? He actually laughed. Something like that. The kitchen door swung open as Kent arrived with Mom and Dad. Everything smells amazing, honey, Mom said, then hesitated. Are you sure you want to cater this? After everything? Mom, I handed her a sample tartlet. I'm not catering. I'm cooking for family. There's a difference. Dad examined the new industrial oven he'd helped finance. Business looks good. It is. That interview changed everything. Turns out people respect honesty more than perfect facades. Brent winced slightly. The interview had gone viral, our family's raw confrontation resonating even more than the original story. But it had also opened doors for healing, for change, for real conversations. Speaking of honesty, Brent pulled out an envelope. I got my first real investor meeting next week. A legitimate business plan this time. Would you look it over? I took the envelope. You're asking my opinion? Openly? In front of witnesses? I'm trying this new thing called respecting my sister's expertise. Well, I pretended to consider it. I do have some experience with successful business launches. And dealing with difficult family members, Kent added, dodging my playful swat. Vada burst through the door, waving her phone. You're trending again. What now? I groaned. Someone shared your story in a business leadership forum. You're being called the face of healthy boundaries in family businesses. Great, I sighed. More interviews? Actually, Dad spoke up, I was thinking of doing some interviews myself, about learning to treat your children equally, about really listening. Mom squeezed his hand. We both have a lot to share about that. The kitchen timer chimed. As I pulled out the last batch of appetizers, I caught Brent studying me. What? Just remembering that old letter, he said. I promised to help with culinary school, but you did it all on your own. Built something amazing. Not entirely on my own, I corrected, looking around at my family. I had support when I finally demanded it. Ready to head to my place? Brent asked. I promise the food will actually show up this time. Everyone laughed, the old tension dissolving into something lighter, more genuine. As we loaded the cars, Sophia pulled me aside. You know what's weird? Everything's better since it all fell apart. Like we needed to break to fix things properly. Sometimes you do, I agreed. Speaking of which, how's that culinary school application coming? She beamed. Sent it in yesterday. Think I could intern here while studying? Nepotism? I raised an eyebrow. No, she said firmly. I want to earn it, like you did. At Brent's house, guests were already arriving. Real friends this time, not just business connections. The tables Sophia had set looked beautiful, laden with food made with love rather than obligation. Brent clinked his glass for attention. Before everyone starts eating, I want to say something. He turned to me. Thank you, sis. Not for the food, though it looks amazing, but for having the courage to break our toxic patterns, for showing me what real success looks like. And real family, Mom added. I looked around at my expanded kitchen staff serving alongside my actual family, at the genuine smiles replacing forced ones, at the boundaries now marked with respect instead of resentment. To new beginnings, I raised my glass. And to family, the kind we choose to be, not the kind we pretend to be. The glasses clinked, the food was shared, and for the first time in forever, every smile in the room was real, including mine. This time, when family came first, it came first for all of us.
The phone buzzed again, the fourth time in an hour. I didn't need to check the caller ID to know it was Gareth. My fingers hovered over the screen before I finally gave in and answered. Quinn, thank God. I've been trying to reach you all morning. His voice carried that familiar urgency that always preceded a request for money. I'm Quinn Fisher, and I've spent the last decade being my younger brother's personal bank. The irony? I work as an accountant, watching other people's money grow while my own savings account bleeds dry from family emergencies. I'm at work, Gareth. What is it this time? I tried keeping my voice neutral, though my coworkers probably noticed me gripping my coffee mug a little too tightly. It's just, I'm in a bit of a situation. The bank's threatening to repossess the car, and Tatum doesn't know. I need $8,000 by Friday. The mug nearly slipped from my hand. $8,000? Are you kidding me? What happened to the money I lent you last month for the mortgage? Look, things got complicated. Some investments didn't pan out. Investments? I cut him off, my voice rising. You mean gambling? They weren't games of chance, Quinn. I had insider information. Which makes it worse. I massaged my temples, aware of my colleagues, pretending not to listen. Gareth, I can't keep doing this. I'm not made of money. You're single with no kids. Where else does your money go? The entitlement in his voice made my blood boil. Besides, it's what family does. Mom and Dad would have wanted us to look out for each other. The parent card. He always played it when backed into a corner. Don't bring them into this, I warned, standing up and walking to the break room for privacy. They wouldn't have wanted you gambling away your daughter's college fund. So you're not going to help? His tone shifted from pleading to accusatory. Real nice, Quinn. Real nice. You know what? This is why you're alone. You're nothing but a selfish spinster who cares more about her bank balance than her own family. The words hit like a physical blow. Before I could respond, he hung up. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Nicole. Lunch? You look like you could use a break. I glanced through the break room window to see my best friend waving from her desk across the office. Working at the same firm had its perks. 20 minutes later, we sat at our usual corner table at Mario's, where Nicole waited patiently for me to spill. $8,000, I finally said, stabbing at my salad. That's what he needs this time. Please tell me you're not considering it. Nicole leaned forward, her fork frozen midway to her mouth. I don't know what to do anymore. He's my brother, Nicole. If I don't help him, Tatum and the kids could end up homeless. And if you do help him, you'll be enabling him. Again. She set down her fork. How much have you given him over the years? I did the mental calculation and felt sick. Close to 90,000. Jesus Christ, Quinn. That's a down payment on a house. I know. I pushed my plate away, appetite gone. But every time I try to say no, he brings up our parents or guilt trips me about being single and childless, like that somehow makes my money less valuable. He called you a selfish spinster, didn't he? Nicole's eyes narrowed at my expression. That little shit. You know what? Let him lose the car. Let him face consequences for once in his life. My phone buzzed again, another text from Gareth. I'm sorry about what I said, but I really need your help. Please don't let me down. The worst part? I showed Nicole the text. He's not sorry about what he said. He's sorry he might not get the money. Then don't give it to him. Nicole reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're not responsible for his bad decisions. But what about Tatum? The kids? Maybe it's time they knew the truth about their family's finances. Nicole checked her watch. We should head back. But Quinn? Promise me you'll at least think about saying no this time. I nodded, but my mind was already racing through possibilities. The lakeside property our parents left us came to mind. Gareth's share was still in my name because he'd been too irresponsible to manage it. Maybe it was time to make some changes. As we walked back to the office, another text came through. I need an answer by tonight. Don't let your family down again. Something inside me snapped. For the first time in years, I felt a strange sense of clarity. Maybe it was time to show my dear brother exactly what letting family down looked like. That evening, I found myself digging through the filing cabinet in my home office, pulling out folders of receipts and bank statements. Each piece of paper told the same story, my brother's endless financial drain on my life. The doorbell rang, making me jump. I opened it to find Carmen, our old family friend and neighbor, holding a casserole dish. "Thought you could use some dinner," she said, pushing past me into the kitchen. "Nicole called, said you were having a rough day." I managed a weak smile. "She shouldn't have bothered you." "Nonsense." Carmen started pulling plates from my cupboard like she owned the place. "Now sit down and tell me what that brother of yours has done this time." Over Carmen's famous lasagna, I recounted the day's events. She listened quietly, her expression growing darker with each detail. "Remember when Gareth first came to you for money?" she asked, refilling my wine glass. "Right after your parents' funeral?" $5,000, I said automatically. "He said it was for Tatum's medical bills." "And what was it really for?" I pushed my food around the plate. "Sports betting. I found out 6 months later when his bookie showed up at my door." Carmen set down her fork with a clang. "And that time he swore he needed money for his daughter's braces. Poker tournament in Vegas." The memories were flooding back now. "Or when he claimed his car was totaled." "But it wasn't, was it?" "No. He'd sold it to cover other debts and needed money for a new one." I took a long sip of wine. God, I've been such an idiot. "Not an idiot," Carmen corrected. "Just someone who loves her brother too much for her own good." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Gareth. "Still waiting for an answer. The bank needs the money by Friday." Carmen read the message over my shoulder and snorted. "The bank or his bookie? Does it matter anymore?" I stood up and started pacing. He's never going to change, not as long as I'm his safety net. "So remove the net." I stopped pacing. "What?" "Remove the net," Carmen repeated. "Let him fall. Sometimes hitting rock bottom is the only way people learn to climb." I resumed my pacing, but slower now. "He'll hate me." "He already takes advantage of you. What's worse?" Before I could answer, my heel caught on the corner of an old box, sending papers scattering across the floor. As I bent to collect them, a familiar blue folder caught my eye. "The lake house deed," I whispered, pulling it out. Carmen leaned forward. "The property your parents left you both?" "Yes, but—" I flipped through the documents, my hands shaking. "They put it in my name because Gareth was going through his divorce from his first wife. We were supposed to transfer his half once things settled, but you never did," Carmen finished, understanding dawning on her face. I stared at the papers, an idea forming. "The property's worth at least $500,000, maybe more now." "Enough to cover all his debts," Carmen said slowly. "And then some?" My phone buzzed again. "Quinn, answer me. Don't be selfish." Something cold and hard settled in my chest. You know what's funny? He's never once thanked me. Not really. It's always been about what I owe him, what I should do as family. Carmen watched me carefully. "And what do you think you should do?" I picked up my phone and opened my contacts, scrolling until I found Dante, the real estate agent who'd helped me buy my condo. "Quinn?" Carmen's voice held a note of concern. "I'm doing what family does," I said, pressing the call button. "I'm looking out for him. One last time." Dante answered on the second ring. "Quinn, long time no hear." "Hi, Dante. Remember that lakefront property I mentioned a while back? I think I'm ready to sell." There was a pause on the other end. "The whole property? Both shares?" "Yes," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "All of it. Well, actually," Dante's voice took on an excited edge, "I might have a buyer already interested. Developer's been eyeing that area for months." I caught Carmen's eye, saw her slight nod of approval. "Perfect," I said. "How quickly can we make this happen?" "If you're serious, we could have papers drawn up by Friday." Friday? The same day Gareth needed the money. The universe had a sense of humor after all. "Let's do it," I said, ignoring the way my hands trembled. "Send me the paperwork tomorrow." After hanging up, I finally replied to Gareth's text. "Don't worry, I'll have your money by Friday." Carmen stood up, gathering her dishes. "You know there's no going back from this, right?" I looked at the deed in my hands, thinking of all the summers we'd spent at that lake house as kids, before Gareth learned to manipulate, before I learned to enable. "Some bridges," I said quietly, "need to burn." The next morning, I met Nicole and her brother Adam at our usual coffee spot before work. I needed level heads to talk me through what I was about to do. "You're actually going to sell it?" Nicole leaned forward, her cappuccino forgotten. The whole property? Already in motion. I pulled out the preliminary paperwork Dante had emailed. The developer's offering $600,000. Adam whistled low. That's a lot of burning bridges. More like nuclear warfare, Nicole added, scanning the documents. Gareth's going to lose his mind when he finds out. He lost his mind years ago, I said, taking back the papers, along with about 90,000 of my dollars. A text buzzed through. Gareth again. Got the bank breathing down my neck. You said you'd have the money by Friday? I showed them the message. Adam's expression darkened. Does he ever ask how you are? Or is it always about money? Take a wild guess. I typed back a quick working on it before putting my phone away. Have you thought about Tatum? Nicole asked carefully. She has no idea about any of this, does she? The guilt I'd been suppressing bubbled up. No, Gareth's kept her in the dark about everything, the gambling, the debts, the money he's borrowed from me. Then maybe this is the wake-up call they both need, Adam said firmly. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them face reality. My phone rang. Dante this time. I stepped outside to take the call. Quinn, great news. His voice crackled with excitement. The developer wants to move fast. They're offering cash and they'll cover all closing costs. We could close by Thursday. My heart skipped. Thursday? That's tomorrow. Too soon? We can push it back. No, I said quickly. Thursday's perfect. Send me whatever you need signed. Back inside, Nicole and Adam were deep in conversation, but fell silent when I returned. What? I asked, noting their expressions. Adam had an idea, Nicole said slowly, about what to do with the money after paying off Gareth's debts. Adam cleared his throat. You should invest the rest. For your future. No more sacrificing everything for someone who gives nothing back. He's family, I said automatically, then caught myself. God listened to me. Still making excuses. Old habits. Nicole said gently. But maybe it's time for new ones. My phone buzzed again, this time a text from Tatum. Quinn, is everything okay? Gareth's been acting strange, says you're helping with some financial stuff. I showed the others. What do I even say to that? Nothing yet, Adam advised. Let things play out. She needs to hear the truth from her husband, not her sister-in-law. Speaking of truth, Nicole added, you should probably warn Carmen. She's still their neighbor at the lake house, right? I nodded, already pulling up Carmen's number. She answered immediately. The developer just made an offer, I said without preamble. We're closing tomorrow. A long pause. That fast? Is it too fast? No, she said firmly. Quick and clean, like ripping off a Band-Aid. But Quinn, I saw Tatum at the lake house yesterday. She was talking about their summer plans. My stomach lurched. They don't know they won't have access anymore. No, they don't. Carmen's voice softened. Are you sure about this? Before I could answer, Dante called again. Quinn, the developer's lawyer just sent over the final contracts. I'm emailing them now. Once you sign, there's no going back. I looked at Nicole and Adam, saw their encouraging nods. Send them through, I said, my voice steady. I'll sign them right away. After hanging up, I checked my email. There it was, the document that would change everything. My finger hovered over the download button. You know what this means, right? Adam said quietly. Once you sign, you're not just selling a property. You're forcing Gareth to face every choice he's ever made. And every choice I've enabled him to make, I added, clicking download. Maybe it's time we both faced some hard truths. Nicole squeezed my hand. Want us to stay while you sign? I shook my head. No, this is something I need to do alone. As they left, my phone lit up with one final text from Gareth. Thanks for coming through, sis. I knew I could count on you. I stared at the message, then at the contracts waiting for my signature. With steady hands, I picked up my pen. Sometimes being counted on meant doing the hard thing, not the easy one. You're welcome, little brother, I whispered and began to sign. The closing meeting felt surreal. I sat in Dante's office, watching as the developer's representative slid check after check across the polished conference table. One for the property, one for the furnishings, even one for leaving the boat in the boathouse. Just need your final signature here, Dante said, pointing to the last line. And it's done. My hand trembled slightly as I signed. $625,000. The property had been worth even more than we'd thought. Congratulations, the developer's rep said, standing to shake my hand. We'll begin construction next month. Construction? They were going to tear down our childhood home and build luxury condos. I forced a smile and excused myself, practically running to the bathroom. Nicole was waiting outside, having taken an extended lunch break to be there for moral support. You okay? No, I admitted, splashing water on my face. But I will be. Have you figured out how you're going to tell him? I dried my hands, checking my phone. 3 missed calls from Gareth. I'm not yet. First, I need to fix his mess. We headed straight to the bank where I transferred enough money to cover Gareth's car loan and his mortgage payments. Then, to his credit card companies, clearing balance after balance. By late afternoon, I'd paid off every debt I knew about. That's $78,000, I said, staring at the remaining balance in my account. How does someone rack up that much debt without their wife knowing? Practice, Nicole replied dryly. Lots of practice. My phone rang again. Gareth. This time I answered. Quinn, where have you been? The bank's been calling all day about payments hitting my accounts. Did you rob a bank or something? Or something, I said quietly. All your debts are paid. Gareth, every single one. A long pause. How? Does it matter? Isn't this what you wanted? Yes, but he sounded confused, almost suspicious. Quinn, where did you get this kind of money? Maybe we should talk about that in person. Tomorrow? No, tell me now. What did you do? I took a deep breath. I sold the lake house. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, you what? I sold it. To developers. They're building condos. You can't, that's not, half of that property is mine. His voice rose with each word. Actually, no. The deed was in my name. Remember? We never transferred your half after your divorce? Because you said we didn't need to. He was shouting now. You said it didn't matter because we're family. And families are supposed to look out for each other, I said, my voice hardening. Not bleed each other dry. I'm calling my lawyer. Go ahead. The sale's already final. The property's being demolished next month. A crash on his end, something being thrown. You vindictive bitch. Does Tatum know? The kids? We were supposed to spend the summer there. Maybe you should have thought about that before gambling away their college fund. Another crash. I'm coming over. No, you're not. I surprised myself with how calm I sounded. We'll talk tomorrow when you've had time to process this. Process this? Process this? You just sold our family home. And you just lost it, I said quietly. Funny how consequences work, isn't it? I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. For the first time in years, I felt free. Nicole touched my arm. You okay? No. I laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. But I think I will be. My phone started buzzing with texts. From Tatum. What's going on? Gareth's freaking out about the lake house. From Carmen. He just peeled out of his driveway like a madman. Want me to come over? From Adam. Nicole told me. Stay at our place tonight if you need to. Come on, Nicole said, taking my arm. Let's get you home. Adam's ordering pizza and we're having a sleepover. I should face him. Not tonight, she said firmly. Tonight you need to process what you've done. Tomorrow's soon enough for the fallout. As we drove to her place, I got one final text from Gareth. Hope you're happy. You've destroyed this family. I stared at the message for a long moment before typing back. No, Gareth, you did that all on your own. I just stopped helping you hide it. Then I turned off my phone. Tomorrow would bring what it would bring, but for tonight I'd done what needed to be done. The money was gone, the debts were paid, and the lake house. Well, sometimes you had to burn down the past to build a better future. Even if that future came with luxury condos. The pounding on my front door started at 7 a.m. sharp. I'd barely gotten home from Nicole's, hadn't even made coffee yet. Open the damn door, Quinn! Gareth's voice carried through the wood. I know you're in there. I took a deep breath and opened it. Gareth burst in, Tatum right behind him. His eyes were bloodshot, his clothes rumpled like he hadn't slept. Tatum looked shell-shocked, clutching her purse like a shield. Tell her, Gareth demanded, gesturing wildly at his wife. Tell her what you did. I met Tatum's confused gaze. I sold the lake house. You had no right. Gareth slammed his fist against my wall. That property was half mine. Was it? I walked to my desk, pulled out a folder. Because these bank statements say otherwise, would you like to explain them to Tatum? Tatum stepped forward hesitantly. What bank statements? Don't, Gareth warned me. No, I think it's time. I handed Tatum the folder. Every loan, every bailout, every time your husband came to me for money over the past 10 years, nearly $90,000 in total. Tatum's hands trembled as she flipped through the pages. This can't be right. We don't have these debts anymore, Gareth cut in, because Quinn sold our family property without consulting anyone. Your gambling debts, I corrected. Your credit card debt, your car loans. Tatum's head snapped up. Gambling? It wasn't gambling, Gareth protested. They were investments. Sports betting is not investing. I pulled out more papers. Neither is poker or online casinos or whatever else you've been hiding from your wife. Tatum sank onto my couch, still clutching the statements. The kids' college fund. You said it was in a special high-yield account. Tatum? Gareth started. Did you gamble away our children's future? Her voice was barely a whisper. The silence was answer enough. I paid it all off, I said quietly. Every debt, every loan. He's starting fresh. With money you stole from me, Gareth shouted. Money I protected from you, I shot back. What would you have done with your half, Gareth? Bet it on the next big game? The next sure thing? That's not. Then what was your plan? I stepped closer. Because the bank was about to repossess your car. Your mortgage was 3 months behind. Your credit cards were maxed out. What exactly was your plan? I would have figured something out. Like you always do. Tatum's voice cut through our argument. By going to your sister? By lying to me? She stood up suddenly, swaying slightly. Gareth reached for her, but she jerked away. Don't touch me. She pressed her hand to her forehead. I think I'm going to be... She didn't finish the sentence before her eyes rolled back and she crumpled. Gareth caught her before she hit the floor. Tatum? Baby? He lowered her to the couch, patting her cheeks. Wake up! I was already dialing 911 when her eyes fluttered open. I'm fine, she mumbled, trying to sit up. Just overwhelmed. The paramedics are on their way, I said, hanging up. I said I'm fine. But she looked anything but fine, her face ashen. You're getting checked out, Gareth insisted, his anger temporarily forgotten in concern for his wife. We sat in tense silence until the paramedics arrived. As they checked Tatum's vitals, my phone buzzed with a text from Carmen. Saw the ambulance. Everyone okay? Tatum fainted. I typed back. Being checked now. Low blood pressure, one paramedic announced. Probably stress-induced, but we should take her in for observation, just to be safe. As they helped Tatum onto the stretcher, she grabbed my hand. The lake house? It's really gone? I nodded. I'm sorry. I know you loved it there. Not as much as I loved believing my husband was honest with me. She let go, allowing the paramedics to wheel her out. Gareth followed, then turned at the door. This isn't over. Yes, it is. I met his gaze steadily. The money's gone. The property's sold. And your wife finally knows the truth. It's over, Gareth. You just don't know how to stop. You've ruined everything. No, I said softly. I just stopped letting you ruin me. He slammed the door so hard my windows rattled. Through them, I watched the ambulance pull away, Gareth's car following close behind. My phone buzzed again, Nicole this time. Just heard from Adam. Need company? I stared at the scattered papers, the evidence of a decade of enabling, of a lifetime of manipulation. No, I replied. I think I need to be alone right now. Sometimes the aftermath of a storm was quieter than the storm itself, but that didn't make it any less devastating. 3 days after Tatum's collapse, I sat in my garden, pulling weeds with perhaps more force than necessary. My phone had been suspiciously quiet. No calls from Gareth, no texts from Tatum. Just silence. You're going to kill those poor plants. Carmen's voice came from over the fence. She held up a bottle of wine. Need a break? Minutes later, we sat on my patio, the evening sun casting long shadows across the yard. Heard anything? Carmen asked, pouring generous glasses. Radio silence, but the gossip spreading. I took a long sip. My aunt called to tell me I'm heartless. 2 cousins unfriended me on Facebook. Even my mother's old bridge club is taking sides. And how are you holding up? Before I could answer, a car pulled into my driveway, Adam's SUV. He got out carrying a manila envelope. Sorry to interrupt, he said, joining us on the patio, but you need to see this. He pulled out a newspaper, our local weekly. There, in the business section, was a photo of the lake house with the headline, Historic Lakefront Property to Become Luxury Development. It's not the article you need to see, Adam said, flipping to the classifieds. Look. There, in the employment section, was a small notice. Position terminated. Gareth Fisher, Senior Account Manager. My stomach dropped. He lost his job. Apparently the gambling wasn't just personal. Adam said quietly. He was placing bets from his work computer, using company time, company resources. Oh God. I set down my wine glass before I could drop it. Did they press charges? No, but they're not giving him references either. He's basically unemployable in his field now. Carmen reached for the paper. Does Tatum know? She's staying with her sister, Adam said, taking some time to process everything, according to Nicole. My phone buzzed. Speak of the devil. A text from Tatum. Can we talk? Alone? She wants to meet, I told them, showing the message. Are you going to? Carmen asked. I have to. I typed back a quick response, suggesting a coffee shop downtown. Want backup? Adam offered. I shook my head. This is between us. An hour later, I sat in the coffee shop, watching Tatum approach through the window. She looked tired, older somehow, like the past few days had aged her years. Thanks for meeting me, she said, sliding into the seat across from me. I ordered your usual. We sat in awkward silence until our drinks arrived. I found more statements, she finally said, pulling papers from her bag. Hidden in his golf bag. Credit cards I didn't know existed. Loans from people I've never heard of. Tatum? No, let me finish. She spread the papers on the table. All these years I thought we were doing well, planning for our future, our kids' futures. But it was all a lie, wasn't it? And you knew. I knew about the money he borrowed from me, I admitted. I didn't know about all this. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? She stared into her coffee. No, probably not. Another silence fell. He lost his job, she said finally. Did you know? I nodded. Just found out today. He's talking about suing you for the lake house. He won't win. I know. She looked up, her eyes wet. I'm not here about that. I'm here to say thank you. That caught me off guard. What? For forcing the truth out. For making him face consequences. For... She wiped her eyes. For doing what I should have done years ago. Tatum. I'm leaving him, she cut in. Not just staying with my sister, actually leaving. I've already talked to a lawyer. My coffee grew cold between my hands. Are you sure? The kids deserve better than a father who gambles away their future. I deserve better than a husband who lies to my face. She gathered her papers. I thought you should know. And I wanted to apologize. For what? For blaming you. When you sold the lake house, I thought you were being cruel. Now I realize you were being kind. In your own way. She stood to leave, and then paused. He's not the man we thought he was, is he? Either of us? I watched her walk away, thinking of the brother I'd grown up with, the one who used to protect me from schoolyard bullies, who taught me to swim in that lake we'd just sold. My phone buzzed. Gareth again. You've taken everything from me. No, I thought, putting the phone away without responding. You gave it all away, piece by piece, bet by bet. I just stopped pretending I couldn't see it happening. Sometimes love means letting someone hit bottom, even if you have to be the one who takes away their safety net. The demolition was scheduled for a Tuesday. I hadn't planned to go, but something pulled me to the lake that morning. I parked across the street, watching the construction crews set up their equipment. A tap on my window made me jump. Gareth stood there, looking worse than I'd ever seen him, unshaven, wearing the same clothes he'd had on at my house over a week ago. I rolled down the window. "What are you doing here?" "Same as you," he said, his voice hoarse. "Saying goodbye." After a moment's hesitation, I got out of the car. We stood side by side, watching the crews work. "Remember when Dad built that treehouse?" Gareth asked suddenly. "The one that fell down in that storm? You broke your arm trying to save your comic books from it. And you stayed with me in the hospital all night." He kicked at a stone. "When did we stop being those people, Quinn?" "Around the time you started seeing me as an ATM instead of a sister." He flinched. "I never—" "Don't." I turned to face him. "Don't lie. Not here. Not now." The first crunch of machinery against wood made us both jump. The demolition had begun. "Tatum's leaving me," he said quietly. "I know." "The kids—" His voice cracked. "She's filing for full custody. Says I'm unfit." "Are you?" He didn't answer immediately, watching as the excavator took another bite out of our childhood home. "I need help," he finally whispered. "Real help, not money." "There's a gambling addiction program at the community center," I said. "Free counseling, support groups." "You've researched this?" "Of course I have. You're still my brother." A crash drew our attention back to the house. The entire east wall was gone now, exposing the kitchen where Mom used to make Sunday pancakes. "I found a job," Gareth said. "Nothing fancy. Stocking shelves at the hardware store. It's humbling. Good. That's it? Just good?" "What do you want me to say, Gareth? That I'm sorry? That I'll fix everything?" "No." He ran a hand through his unwashed hair. "I want you to tell me how to start over when you've burned every bridge you ever had." "You build new ones," I said simply. "Better ones. Stronger ones." The excavator moved to the west wing, our old bedrooms. Memories floated out with the dust. Midnight conversations through the wall, secret candy stashes, shared nightmares and dreams. "I've been horrible to you," Gareth said suddenly. "All these years, taking and taking. And then I called you those names, said those things." "Yes, you did." "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "No, you don't." He looked at me sharply. "But that's not how forgiveness works," I continued. "It's not about deserving it. It's about earning it, every day, with every choice you make from now on." A loud crack echoed across the lake as the main support beam gave way. The remaining walls collapsed in a cloud of dust and splinters. "I don't know how to be better," Gareth admitted. "Yes, you do. You're just scared to try. And if I fail, then you fail, but you do it honestly, without dragging everyone else down with you." The dust began to settle, revealing nothing but rubble where our house had stood. Gareth wiped his eyes roughly. "Will you?" He cleared his throat. "Will you come with me? To the community center?" I studied him carefully. "To sign up for the program?" "Yeah. Today, if possible, before I lose my nerve." The construction crew was already clearing debris, preparing the land for its new future. Sometimes, I realized, you had to completely demolish something before you could rebuild it. "Okay," I said, "but I'm not paying for anything. Not anymore." "I know." He managed a weak smile. "I brought cash for the registration fee. Earned it honestly, too." As we walked to our cars, he paused. "Quinn? I really am sorry. For everything." "I know." I looked back at the empty lot. "But sorry isn't enough anymore. Show me you mean it. Show Tatum. Show your kids. One day at a time. One choice at a time." He nodded, understanding finally showing in his eyes. As we drove away from the lake, I watched in my rearview mirror as the last pieces of our past were loaded into dumpsters. My phone buzzed, a text from Nicole. "Everything okay?" "No," I typed back. "But maybe, someday, it will be." Sometimes the hardest part of helping someone isn't the help itself. It's knowing when to stop helping so they can finally help themselves. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee and fresh pastries as I sat at the outdoor cafe, watching people hurry past. Nicole slid into the chair across from me, dropping a thick envelope on the table. "The final paperwork from the developer," she said. "All done. The condos are officially not your problem anymore." I picked up the envelope but didn't open it. "Have you driven by recently?" "Yesterday." The foundation's already going in. She studied my face. Having regrets? No. Just, I gestured vaguely. Memories. Speaking of memories, Nicole nodded toward the street. Incoming. Gareth approached our table, looking markedly different from the last time I'd seen him. Clean shaven, pressed shirt, clear eyes. He carried a small gift bag. Mind if I join you? I gestured to the empty chair. He sat, placing the bag in front of me. What's this? Open it. Inside was a small wooden box. I recognized the craftsmanship immediately. He'd made it in the hardware store's woodworking workshop. Open the box, he prompted. Inside was a check, not a large one, but significant. It's my first repayment, he said quietly. From my hardware store salary and the weekend moving jobs I've been taking, it's not much. Gareth, you don't have to. Yes, I do. His voice was firm. 6 months of sobriety chips don't mean anything if I don't make amends. Real ones. Nicole excused herself, giving us privacy. How's the program going? I asked, though I already knew. Carmen kept me updated through her weekly volunteer work at the community center. Hard, good, both. He stirred his coffee. Tatum brought the kids to my meeting last week, first time since everything. That's good. Yeah, we're talking about supervised visits. Maybe dinner once a week. He looked up. I'm not asking her to come back. I need to prove I can be reliable first, to them and to myself. A notification pinged on my phone. A news alert about the lake property development, Gareth noticed. Carmen sent me pictures of the construction. He said, it's strange seeing it change. Everything changes. Not everything. He pulled something from his pocket, a small worn photo. Us as kids, sitting on the lake house dock. Some things just get buried under years of bad choices. Gareth, let me finish. Please. He set the photo down. I've been talking about you in my meetings, about how you enabled me by always being there with money, but also how you saved me by finally saying no. How selling the lake house was the best thing anyone's ever done for me, even though I hated you for it at the time. And now? Now I understand that rock bottom has a purpose. It shows you what's real, what matters. He pushed the photo toward me. I found this while packing up my old office. Thought you might want it. I picked up the photo, remembering that day. Mom had just taught me to fish. Dad had promised Gareth he could drive the boat next summer. Keep it, I said, sliding it back. Put it somewhere you can see it every day. Remember who we were, who we can be again. You think we can? I think we're already starting to. My phone buzzed, a text from Carmen. Gareth's 6-month sobriety celebration tonight. You coming? I showed him the message. You don't have to, he said quickly. I know things are still. What time? He blinked. 7, at the center. I'll be there. He stood, emotion flickering across his face. Quinn, I know. I managed a small smile. Me too. After he left, Nicole returned. You okay? Getting there. I picked up the wooden box, running my fingers over its careful craftsmanship. He made this himself. Small steps. Better than no steps. My phone buzzed again, Tatum this time. Taking the kids to Gareth's celebration tonight. Want to sit together? I looked at the lake house demolition notice still lying on the table. The past was gone, bulldozed into memory. But maybe that's what we all needed. Clear ground to build something new. Want company tonight? Nicole asked. Actually, I said, typing a response to Tatum. I think I need to do this one with family. Because that's the thing about family. Real family. It's not about keeping score or holding grudges. It's about being there when someone's trying to rebuild, even if you're the one who had to tear everything down first. I picked up the wooden box, feeling its weight. Sometimes the heaviest things we carry aren't burdens at all. They're the first steps towards something better.